All right, I call to order this August 3rd, 2026 joint meeting of the Friendswood City Council and the City of Friendswood Employee Benefit Trust, and announce that each has a quorum. Our vacation today is going to be led by Pastor Mike Ross from Church of Christ in Friendswood, Texas. So if y'all mind standing and then remain standing, we'll say the pledges after Pastor Ross.
I'm not going to be able to stay for our meeting this evening, but I just want to express gratitude for the invitation to come before council, but also to express gratitude for your service to our community. So rich. Congratulations on your new digs. And one other thing I've just kind of learned briefly that one of the things that you're paying attention to is our comprehensive traffic in Friendswood. So thank you for that. Please pray with me. Holy God, with humility, we come before your throne of mercy. And Father, with gratitude, we thank you for the gift of your presence in our journey and ask for the gift of your power. So for our community, Lord, we pray that Friendswood will always be under this compassionate blanket of protection and safekeeping and healthy living. And Father, I pray that some special blessings will be empowered with the people in our community who serve from the heart and volunteer to improve the quality of life for each neighbor here. So may you guide these leaders and these volunteers with wisdom and insight and understanding, with helpful, effective communication with one another, and a supportive attitude of working together. And I too pray, Lord, that you'll empower each of them with boldness and courage and assertiveness. And may each one in our neighborhood, our community, walk in your mercy and celebrate your grace, embrace your forgiveness, and may Friendswood and each neighborhood and each family and our council and our leaders and our servants always be under this umbrella of your compassionate love. We pray that our journey will be filled with light, with healing, and peace. And may our avenue of peace lead to the gate of hope for Friendswood. So we thank you for all these blessings. In the name of Christ, we pray. Amen. Amen. Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thanks, Pastor. Okay. Down to item 4, council comments and reports. You want to go first?
No comments other than I'm thankful to live in Friendswood.
Councilmember Branson?
Ditto to that. I also want to let folks know that before we meet again, we're going to be having I think this is our 11th, 12th year, doesn't matter, annual Labor Day Ice Cream Social. We'll be back at the Perry Home on Labor Day from 5 to 7 in the evening. We're hoping it's a little cooler that time of day, but this is a joint activity that the city helps with, Rotary Club, Historical Society, Friends of Downtown Friends Association, gardeners, I don't know, it's all the nonprofits in town. So we're very excited about it. So I hope you can come and have a free scoop of ice cream with us. That's it.
And I would second or third John's comments too about loving to live in Friendswood. It's a great town. But also the library, the Friends of the Library are having a gala fundraiser on September 26th. It's open to the public. Tickets are on sale on the website if you go to Friends of the Friendswood Public Library. It should be a really great night. They have contributed a lot that our city doesn't contribute to the library, so some extra things. And they also have a scholarship for adults who didn't finish high school. And so there is a program for them to get their GED. And I don't know if you visit our library much, but it is a happening place. I never go by there or have a meeting there that it's not crowded. And sometimes we're parking at the Friends parking lot across the street because there are so many people visiting, especially this summer with moms and young children. And then the second thing I want to remind everybody is that school will be starting before we meet again, possibly. And because we have some special meetings, so I'm not sure. But just there'll be traffic and kids, and so everyone slow down and let's pray for a safe school year for both of our schools, Friendswood and CCISD, and so that our children will be educated well and our staff will be having a joyous year and safe year. Thank you.
All right, I do have something to say. The Harris County Flood Control District, they're getting together a couple of webinars and Zoom meetings for people who are interested in the Friendswood Regional Stormwater Detention Basin. They have, you can go on their website, Harris County Flood Control District, and they'll have a QR code. If you want to, you can register, and they want your input, but they also want to give you a great deal of information on what the Friendswood Regional Detention Basin is and the things that are going on with the study and about where we are on that. As far as moving forward and getting that basin completed. And Harris County Flood Control District is also going to be giving another virtual meeting on the federal project. And the federal project is a huge project, and it has already passed through the U.S. Corps of Engineers, and now that's going to be going to design. They have anticipated milestones. They're going to, in the third quarter of 2026, complete the National Environmental Policy Act process, and they'll start doing qualifications for the design of that. So if you want to see what's going on with the federal project, I again urge you to go online. And then last month, you will all recall that Friendswood finished their master drainage plan, and we went over the master drainage plan. Well, Galveston County Consolidated Drainage District also finished a milestone with their IDRT study. And if you haven't had an opportunity to go online to the Galveston County Consolidated Drainage District, I urge you to do so. There's a lot of neat things that are coming down the pipe with some of these studies, and there's a lot of things that could be discussed. So I just wanted to mention those are coming up, and the one is August the 11th for the Friendswood Stormwater Detention Basin, and the other one, I've got all these papers up here, and they're all mixed up, is going to be, well, I'm just going to have to find it right here, project update. Well, I don't even have the date of that one, but I'll get back with you. If you want to know, just email me at rgriffon@friendswood.com. I think I don't have that date on there. Okay.
Councilmember Hale.
Okay. Trish, you kind of already jumped out on the library, and that's going to be my new liaison assignment, and it starts next month, but I had the opportunity to go sit and visit with Melissa Baker, our director, and take the back of the house, I believe she called it, tour, and it was quite informative. I'm not a terribly frequent visitor to the library, but it's not like the first time I've been there by any means. A lot of wonderful things going on there, and again, she gave me a great insight into just a little taste of that. I know, Murad, you're going to bring up the casino night fundraiser, as Trish did as well. It's a great event coming up, and it's great for the library. But one of the things that I found really interesting was there's a door count of the people going in and out the door at the library, and it's tens of thousands of people per month. Kind of keep that in mind. Friendswood Downtown Economic Development Corporation, it's probably the greatest draw that we have currently in downtown Friendswood. So just keep that on the agenda, if you will. Anyway, that's all I have.
Mayor Pro Tem Ross.
Well, thank you for bringing up the Friendswood Library Gala. I'm going to hit it again because as the current liaison, I've been really impressed with the operations of the library. As they've already hit on, and certainly Councilmember Hale just did, is they have a lot of people. Actually, Trish did also. Tons of people. I mean, that place is packed all the time. So everything in there gets used. And when it gets used up. So one of the things that this gala is about is to replace or replenish or make sure all the equipment and facilities are in tip-top shape. So it's on the 26th. Please, if you haven't already committed to going to the gala, it's casino night. So you can dress up fancy and you can go raise some money for a great cause.
Thank you, everyone, for hitting the library. I think it's important to point out that, the library, we do fund the library with your tax dollars, but it's less than 1% of our budget. They don't get a lot of money. And they do amazing programming with all that money, so it's nice that we have a group that supports them in addition to the funding that they get from the city. They raise funds by doing these kinds of fundraisers, and with that money, they can buy those extra things. And thank you both for being big, strong proponents of the library down there. You guys, as liaison, former liaison, now fired and moved up to Mayor Pro Tem and new council liaison to the library. So thank you. And last thing I'll hit is the Parks Department. Talk about another department that operates on a shoestring budget around here, but they do amazing programming as well. I was at the Dive-In movie last week, and it was hot out there at the pool, but we got to watch Finding Nemo, and I don't know what the head count was there, but there must have been 400 people out there at the pool, I bet, taking in the movie and splashing around. I was not in the pool splashing around, but I was enjoying myself in the shade watching Finding Nemo. So thank you all. Moving on, item 5, public comment. To comply with the provisions of the Texas Open Meetings Act, City Council may not deliberate any item not listed on the agenda. As such, the City Council will listen to public comment and may, 1, refer the item to city management for further action, or 2, direct staff to place an item on a future agenda. During public comment, the public shall comply with the council's rules of decorum. Everyone desiring to present comments should have completed a public hearing comment card in the foyer and submitted it to the city secretary. At the podium, each participant shall give her name and address in order to provide a proper record, and the rules allow you 3 minutes. So, Ty Summers.
How y'all doing? Ty Summers. I live off Greenbrier. First off, I want to say thank you so much for bringing this topic up regarding fence, because I'm coming to y'all as just a concerned parent, honestly. I'm very familiar with Friendswood. We bought off Greenbrier knowing that it's busy, knowing it's also no HOA, so fully expecting that. First off, I have 3 kids, I have a 4-year-old, 2-year-old, 8-month-old. And my biggest concern is hey, we bought for this space. We bought to be in Friendswood, and that's what we got. And we're like, hey, we're going to put up a fence. And so didn't look into the fact that there was a code specific with criteria to say that we qualify or don't when we started building it. And so first, I want to apologize. Definitely not trying to step on toes or have to go through a process like this. We don't want to be a problem. But that being said, I was wanting to bring up the fact that the code that is listed as we looked at it, given our street is 2 acres, I think, or 150 feet of road frontage. We have 110, so we're kind of close if that was something y'all would be willing to swing. But the biggest thing we're worried about is living right there by the high school. You got teenage drivers flooring it, ripping and revving it down continuously. It's 20 miles per hour in that section of street, and nobody drives 20 miles per hour for anyone that's familiar with that area. And it's not really enforced. We see police officers, we hear the sirens getting whooped, but no one's getting pulled over, so no one really listens to it. So I would love to be allowed, permitted, to finish my fence, because if y'all have seen the picture, the fence is not done. It looks really bad. And I understand that and why there'd be concern, but we plan on painting it. We plan on putting up a nice gate. We plan on making it really, really nice. And if y'all would like to see a proposal of what it's gonna end up looking like, or something that would make y'all feel more comfortable with that, I'd absolutely love to accommodate whatever would be possible for us to then just put up that fence. It's just biggest things for our kids. It's the reason I'm here, the reason I'm doing it. But again, I appreciate y'all's time for allowing me to be here. So if anything I can do, please reach out to me. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, item 6, committees or special reports. 6A, receive the Community and Economic Development Committee annual report. The Community and Economic Development Committee's annual report was attached to the agenda for council's review, and there's no in-person report. Are there any comments or questions on that report?
Just appreciate all their work they're doing. They're a very active committee.
They are, yes.
As their liaison, I will just say that they brought in Small Business Week, and I know the city got behind it, and it's been a great success, and it just gets bigger and better every year, so really excited about that group.
With no more comments, we'll move on. We'll accept the report and move on to item 6B, receive the Community Development Department's quarterly update presented by Community Development Director Aubrey Harbit.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My voice is a little froggy today. Hopefully we get through this. Just give you a quick update on community development. Excuse me. We've had 10 DRC meetings since April through July, which is pretty steady. We are having some personnel changes. Tom Ferguson, our deputy building official, went back to part-time. So we have promoted Mark Vale to deputy building official. And then Robert Cantu, one of our building inspectors, is leaving to go to another city. He was offered a promotion that he couldn't really say no to. So his last day is, thank you, is this Friday. Still working on a third-party consultant for damage assessments. In case of another event, FEMA is not offering the support that they have historically for damage assessments. So that is something that we are going to get on quickly. Just an update on new residential permits. We've seen a significant decline in new residential building permits this year. I kind of anticipated a decrease, in the next few years. I didn't realize it was going to happen this year. So I'm projecting 45 new homes for this budget year ending September 30th, which you can see on the chart is a pretty significant decrease. Unfortunately, I think just economy in general, I think we have D.R. Horton is doing Friendswood Trails, and then they're also doing Georgetown. So, and they're doing a higher price point than they typically do. So obviously, I think it's going to be a slower process to get those sections complete.
When do we think they'll start Georgetown? They haven't completed Friendswood Trails. We have something in the agenda tonight about that, but, so they're still selling lots and homes out there.
Yeah, like I said, they're slow builds because they're up in the $750,000 range now, which are typically, the last to sell in those sections or in those subdivisions. So, and at it too, I don't know that they want to compete with themselves, because they're building in both neighborhoods.
But assuming their price point in Georgetown would be maybe a little lower than that.
I think they're planning on carrying over they've created a lot of new floor plans for Friendswood. And so they're planning on carrying those floor plans over to Georgetown as well. And those are all 90-foot lots in Georgetown, so.
So not a big jump next year.
Probably not. We have Sterling Estates, that just they're building it, or should start building in there soon. I think we've permitted 2 in there, but that's, 24 lots. So we just don't have a whole lot going on, unfortunately. Yeah, yes, the old Klein property. So we do have a new commercial project on the story map. The Edge is on West Edgewood Drive. The site work is underway over there. They originally had 3 buildings. They're talking about splitting the one on the right instead of being one large building mirroring the 2 buildings. So they're kind of still in some discussions with that, but that project is moving forward. And then Augusta Kelly's office building on Laurel is under construction as well, right next door to APA Designs.
Aubrey, can I mention something? Go back.
Yep.
I had emailed you earlier in regards to Georgetown, and I had forgotten about the story map. And I clicked on the story map, and I went, oh my gosh, this is the exact map that I was wanting to see that you emailed me. So I just want to remind everybody, that story map gives you a detailed picture and breakdown of all the happenings that are going on as far as development is concerned in Friendswood. And I think we are also having a real-time mapping for drainage also.
It's live already.
Yeah, and I was emailing you, I can't see this, I just want the DRC report. And then I looked at that, I went, that's just what I needed. But thanks, Aubrey, I appreciate you sending me those maps.
No problem. I think we're up to 4 story maps now, which story map is just the name of the tool that we get with Esri. We're looking at a place to kind of put all of our story maps in one place on the website so that they're easily accessible. Just another new development project highlight, Sterling Falls venue. We were doing their final inspections on Thursday and Friday last week. I believe they had their first wedding there on Friday. So they were working all the way till the 9th hour. But it's a beautiful facility. Some of my pictures, like I said, they were still working while we were out there, but it is gorgeous. So go by and check that out if you get time. And then just a note, BAHEP, Bay Area Houston Economic Partnership, we are members of that group. And their newsletter, they're promoting our story map as well. Barbara loves the story map, so she doesn't have to call for information all the time. It's right there. So they actually, they have it linked in their monthly newsletter now. So it's being used in all different areas. So just some highlights in our GIS department. They are busy. We did fill our GIS field tech. That position was added in the budget last year, so thank you. Russell Kidd came over from Public Works. He's a great bridge to Public Works to bridge the gap between using our software, our permitting, or actually they use AMS side of City Works and our GIS. So the guys in the field can update GIS information. And so Russell's been like meeting with them now regularly and letting them know, the importance of their information and how they can help and things like that. So he's been really good. We also have a summer intern right now, Austin Allen. And he's helping GIS out with some things, scanning some stuff in for us. And other than that, they created 63 new addresses this quarter and just continuous work on updating projects or information. Planning and Zoning Commission, so we welcomed our new commissioner, Tram Kim, and we reappointed 2 commissioners, Stacy Phillips and Willie Anderson. Since April, they've had 4 meetings. They did 2 site plans. We have changed that process, but staff hasn't approved any site plans yet. But we do have it as a regular agenda item on there to keep the commissioners informed of when we do approve a site plan. They reviewed and approved 16 plats, made 2 zone change recommendations, 2 recommendations for ordinance changes, and 1 recommendation for the release of an easement. And then we have our standing subcommittees, Planning Subcommittee and Ordinance Subcommittee. The Planning Subcommittee is working with me on the comprehensive plan update with Ardura, and the Ordinance Subcommittee is working with Becky on some ordinance changes, which you'll hear about one here in a few minutes. We're also working on reviewing the design criteria manual. Engineering has taken on that task, so hopefully you'll get that by the end of this year. So just an update on the grant for the comprehensive plan. As you know, it was a $250,000 grant from the GLO. It's a 24-month project, so we're actually making good progress on that. The vision statement, that's a draft of the new vision statement that is included in the draft of the plan. So just an overview. We did community events, we did focus group meetings, We had our advisory committee that you all appointed has had 3 meetings. We have another tentative meeting set up for like September timeframe. Well, they will review the final plan. We had stakeholder meetings with high school students, with Panhandle property owners, and the Emergency Operations Center staff and the Downtown Economic Development Corporation. We did an online survey that closed at the end of March. We had over 300 responses in that. So next steps, we are in the process of reviewing the drafts of the plan. So we have drafts of all 13 chapters. The appendix that is all, it's not going to get published with it, but it's over 400 pages of supporting documents and everything that they've put together. We are planning on a work session with you all to present you the vision and guiding principles, the August 11th meeting. And like I said, we'll work through the finalization of the adoption of the final plan by October, November. The CPAC will be meeting again, and we do intend to hold 1 or 2 town hall meetings to let the public review the plan as well. And there is a website on our a web page on our site that has all the backup information for the plan. That is all I have, unless anybody has any questions.
Parkwood Grill, when can they open?
They are, I think they're planning to be open by the end of the summer. We gave them temporary occupancy. They had an event.
Yeah, I saw they had an event about a month ago, and then I was like,
Yeah, we just gave them occupancy for that one event, and they had some things they were still working on, but we were told by the end of summer.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Aubrey.
You're welcome.
Okay, now, if council will let me, I'd like to take the agenda out of order and jump to municipal budget for fiscal year 2026, 2027. Kind of a hot topic for us right now, so we'll finish this real quick and come back to the work session here.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, and for brevity's sake, we've reduced the number of slides considerably than what you're typically used to. Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. Typically, we have our finance team and our finance director give the presentation, but I felt in light of what's taken place with values this past tax year, I thought it would be best that I give the presentation tonight. So please humor me. I may not be as effective as our current director, Rhonda Blaskus.
You have the whole office right next to
I do. That was intentional. As a reminder, 2 years ago, the City Council adopted a vision statement that you're dedicated to providing quality service and fostering a vibrant economic climate and ensuring a robust emergency operations and fiscal responsibility. Well, this year's budget is maintaining those same principles. As we alluded to earlier in the summer, last month on July 8th, the retreat, there are a number of budget drivers that are driving this year's budget. One is our increase in debt service obligations. These are projects, debt that was previously issued that the voters said, yes, please tackle these projects, and our budget is going up accordingly. Personnel cost has increased about 1.4%. We've seen an increase in deferred maintenance items.
Say that percent one more time.
An increase in deferred maintenance items.
Oh, personnel cost.
1.4%. The volunteer fire department contract is increasing, and I'll allude to the dollar amounts here later. The feds have notified us that severe weather events are no longer going to be reimbursed. So hurricane events such as Harvey would be reimbursed. Hurricane events such as Beryl would not, and that was a $3.4 million debris pickup just for Beryl. Emergency response vehicles are getting more and more expensive, and we're trying to set aside funds so that we can purchase those vehicles as they need to be replaced. And then we've had other forces at work. So where does all the money come from for Friendswood? We have a $129 million budget, $129.4 million to be exact. 25% of it comes from property taxes for the entire budget. The biggest line item in terms of funding that 129 are coming from other sources, meaning previously issued debt, previously issued bonds that are going to support capital projects that we told the voters we were going to do. Another 19%, or $24.6 million, comes from services for such as utility fees, water bills, so on and so forth. 13%, 16.9 come from other taxes, sales tax, franchise fees, and things like that. Keep in mind, last year's budget was about $116 million. Some of these dollars for capital projects are being carried over from last year's budget on projects to span multiple years. So it's not that we did 116 million this current fiscal year and we're going to do another 129 million on top of that. There are projects that span multiple calendar years and as such require those funds to be reappropriated and used. Where does that money go? I asked that these graphics be added there for presentation's sake. The number of dollars that go into the budget and the revenue stream have to also be paid. 51% of our budget can't be touched, hence the MC Hammer, you can't touch this. That's $53.2 million in capital project. These were projects that had debt issued for it previously, or funds that were retained in a previous fiscal year and carried over. 10% of it, $13.3 million, are for debt service payments. So much like your own home mortgage, if you have a home mortgage, we're obligated to pay back that debt. Regardless of what we want to do, we cannot take $66.5 million and transfer it to cover any other line item in the budget. It's illegal. It would violate all sorts of laws. Hence the abacus that's on the top left side of the screen. We have a lot of money in the bank. The last investment report showed about $84 million total. Those are previous bond issues that are sitting in investment pools awaiting their turn to be spent for capital projects. I cannot legally take a bead from one rung of an abacus and move it to another to offset the impacts and other costs. Outside of that 51%, we have 18%, or roughly 23.8% for public safety. This is police, EMS, and fire. These are contracts for services on the volunteer fire department. These are our police officers and our emergency medical services techs. 17.9%, or 17.9 million, 15% is for public works and community development, the department, one of which we discussed a few minutes ago. And then everything else is for the general government. That's finance, IT, HR, city manager's office. 1% for the library, as the mayor alluded to earlier today. 5% for parks and rec, and 1.3% for engineering. Over the last 5 years, we've seen growth in a variety of sectors, but the two biggest ones are personnel and benefits and services. You'll note on the personnel and benefits on the left-hand side of the screen, the two big uplifts were bringing on EMS in-house in 2025. And then last year, thank you, Mayor and Council, you approved the creation and addition of 16 full-time equivalent positions across multiple departments, not just public safety. The other big ticket items are our services. These are contract services for mowing. These are contract services for janitorial services at parks and at city facilities. These are contract services that the city of Friendswood has to bid. I have no control at what the prices come back at. The services are pretty well self-explanatory, and then we're subject to the laws that are in place when we award those contracts. Everything else, supplies, maintenance, and others, you can tell is extremely small compared to those two items, personnel, benefits, and services. Well, how do we compare with our neighbors? The graph before you shows Friendswood in green and the other neighbors in blue. Friendswood is roughly 6.6 employees per 1,000 residents in Friendswood. League City is slightly below us at 6.2. And then everyone else is, as you can see, is higher than us. Pearland's about 7.2, Baytown is 11.4 or thereabouts, Deer Parks is 10.2, Webster, very small population, but they have a lot of commercial, and that's what drives their staffing. And then Alvin is above us at about 8.1, 8.2. Our average salary per FTE varies. Obviously, if you have a leaner staff, then the average salary is going to be slightly higher. So we included on the bottom of the chart what each community spends in their personnel budget. Friendswood's about 22.8 million, and then so on and so forth, as you see on the screen before you. The figures are based on FY26 budgets, meaning each of those cities, including Friendswood, adopted budgets. I can't tell you what they're necessarily projecting because it's no telling what's going to be adopted by their council as ours as well. The figures are inclusive of personnel and benefits, but we subtracted out the benefits consistently across each city so that there was an apples-to-apples comparison. So on July 8th, we presented you with a no new revenue rate based upon preliminary values. Well, a number of things have changed. Since we got the preliminary values in April, we received the certified values early last week. And Despite what the preliminary value showed in terms of a growth of 7% in valuation, we've seen a considerable reduction in that. In fact, our values are relatively flat. So whereas we were projecting a no new revenue rate of 48.5 cents, the no new revenue rate is actually 51.5 roughly. So when we were talking about a proposed tax rate of 52 cents at the July 8th retreat, we still needed roughly 4 pennies to fund the forces at work and the contracts that were previously approved by council. We still need those same 4 cents. The difference being that the values are flat, those 4 cents are coming on top of the existing flat tax rate. The difference between the 0.044 and the 0.041 is the difference between the free ceilings and exemptions coming in different from what they were shown on the preliminary values, as well as our debt service, shifting some debt service over to, from operations and maintenance over to debt service. So the 4.5 cents above the current tax rate is going to be utilizing some of our unused increments from prior years. So we have the ability, the state has allowed municipalities to increase their revenue from their prior year roughly 3.5%. On years that they don't use all 3.5%, they can set aside a portion of that for future years' growth in demand. The two biggest drivers this current year, obviously the value's doing what they do. The other one being House Bill 9. So in the legislative session in 2025, the House and the Senate passed a bill raising the commercial property exemptions, the business personal property, from $2,500 to $125,000. That's a 50-fold increase. Well, that resulted in a $35 million loss in value for the city of Friendswood. That loss alone is being borne on the shoulders of our homeowners. So whereas the business personal properties that were exempted because of it, the homeowners are picking up the tab for that. I don't think that's what the state intended, but that's what the net result of that bill did. We've seen a decrease in our new construction of about $19.8 million. We had about $101 million in new construction, but when you take the Castle Biosciences $20 million off the rolls because it's in the tax increment reinvestment zone, and about $2.6 million for the Friendswood City Center, our net taxable for new construction is $78.1 million. We still have properties under protest, $338 million still in protest. We are anticipating receiving less of those dollars this year than we have in prior years. Historically, we had budgeted about 85% of those values would be received. This year, we're anticipating about 80% of that, but until the appraisal districts review those appeals, we won't know for certain what those dollars will come in at. And as I mentioned before, tax debt services are up to $6.8 million. It's roughly a $307,000 increase from last year. If you look at our property value comparison from prior years, as we all know, residential properties are our bread and butter in Friendswood. If you compare the 2025 updated rolls to the 2026 certification rolls, you'll see a relatively flat growth. We anticipated, based on preliminary values, that about a 7% growth, as I alluded to, and that since has been scaled back. So what are our forces at work? You have on the top chart about $2.23 million worth of new initiatives, contracts, forces at work, things that are beyond our ability to address and fund within our budget without having direction given by council. We talked about the vehicle replacement plan for fire and EMS vehicles of $600,000, $500,000 for deferred maintenance allocation. Currently, we don't have a revenue stream to fund things that break. We historically have used dollars that are above the 90-day reserve based upon our financial policy. Well, that 90-day reserve on a $129 million budget, that money above the 90-day reserve is only about $250,000. So we're talking $250,000 available to fix something that breaks on a $129 million budget. Severe weather expenditures, we don't have a dedicated fund. We have a 90-day emergency reserve to help pay bills if we do have an emergency, but we don't have a dedicated revenue stream to replenish that fund should the feds not respond. So again, in Harvey, we spent about $5 million, $5.4 million to just pick up debris alone. We used our 90-day reserve and the feds paid us back. Beryl, we used $3.4 million to pick up debris. We used our 90-day reserve and the feds paid us back. But moving forward, the Fed has already indicated to us they are not going to pay us back for a barrel. So if we expend $3.4 million of our 90-day reserve, we don't have any way to replenish that fund without issuing emergency debt. House Bill 4144, change in retirement structures for emergency personnel, police officers, not a whole lot of money, but about $5,000. Police Department, Microsoft licenses, $27,000, and I can read each one on those lists. But the other big ticket item are the special election and the volunteer fire department contract of about $312,000. That's our biggest driver, driving the need for the 4 pennies. A penny right now is roughly $570,000, and we need 4 pennies. Merit this next year is about $310,000. We had a bit of savings because of the way we budgeted for part-time EMS, not knowing when we brought on that 3rd ambulance what those costs would be. These are the list of decision packages that are not being funded. We do have available capacity in the unused increment, but staff's not suggesting going up higher than the 55.9 cents. On the water sewer side, these are the forces at work. So water sewer is a mirror opposite of our general fund, meaning that 70% of our contract costs are contract services on the water sewer side, and only about 30% are personnel. These are projects that we're under contractual obligation with the City of Houston, the Gulf Coast Authority, on improvements to the water plant as well as the wastewater treatment plant. As far as the water sewer funded, we have the merit for the water sewer employees, and then we have the customer compliance coordinator in Public Works, and then the engineering wastewater analysis. Unfunded is the water system infrastructure planning update. So I need direction from council. I know this is a slight change from the retreat we had on July 8th. I say slight, yes, the tax rate is different, but we're still talking the same 4 pennies. So with that,
Well,
let me have it.
You know, not the best news, but hey, we play that game every year, and we project and we do preliminary values, and our staff is very conservative on how they base their numbers, and we're always hoping that, you know, after preliminary numbers, the numbers get better in regards to what that does to our tax rate this year. Went the other way, but I'm still full speed ahead. We need the fire and EMS equipment. We need the emergency fund. We need the
Deferred maintenance and the.
deferred maintenance, sorry. So we need those things because you can't just kick that can down the road. I mean, eventually it's going to come back to bite us, like you say. We're going to have to spend another $2 million for a fire engine, you know, and that's pricey, and we're going to have a storm. Hope not, but we will have a storm, and we'll have to pay for cleanup. And, you know, we just have to, and we have deferred maintenance that we just can't keep ignoring. So the same 4 cents I was in favor of when the base number was a little lower is, you know, I'm still good for that. I wish the tax rate was lower. I wish we could say to our citizens that, hey, we're lowering your tax rate, but it's just not that kind of environment, you know. And if you want to live in Friendswood, unfortunately, you get used to the services that we provide, and I think, you know, you pay for those services. So I think we do a fantastic job, and I'm still on board with this. So I'm going to suggest that we move forward with this tax rate.
Rod, if you would you go back to the chart where you showed the buckets of money that are actually protected, that we, you know, can't touch this, that one. Everybody resumes. When you take a look at this, kind of along the lines of what the mayor was just saying, that you've got 51% that we can't touch, and then if you throw public safety in on top of that, you're 70% plus of our budget. I mean, nobody wants to touch public safety, and we shouldn't touch public safety. There's not a lot of wiggle room in our budget. I think we're very lean. We run lean and mean, and I think that I have a lot of confidence in how this budget is put together, your process that you go through in this, and so I, similar to the mayor, would be in support of the increase that we're talking about, because I would not want to see our services diminished. Our citizens are used to a level of service, and I think we as a city would like to be able to continue to provide that level of service. So I would be in support of the increase that you're talking about. It can't help that the property values came in differently than what we anticipated. We don't have control over that.
Councilmember Hale.
I'm the new guy, okay? And so I do have some questions. Now, we have a meeting on the 11th to discuss the budget. So the budget's still a little bit of a work in progress, right?
It is. It will not be adopted until September 14th. It could be adopted on August 24th if you're so inclined, but the tax rate to fund the budget has to be adopted on September 14th. So much like we presented to y'all on July 8th, we're seeking input. So if there are suggestions or direction you would like us to go, we need that input.
Well, and again, not to have that long budget discussion now. I am absolutely in favor of maintaining or raising the level of service for our citizens, but also doing it very conservatively on the tax rate and the taxes. And I think our staff works hard to do that. But I do have a couple of questions. On the slide, water and sewer fund decision packages.
Yes, sir.
Customer service compliance coordinator and a vehicle. Is this to do with the backflow preventer program, or
Yes.
what are we doing here?
Yes, it's the backflow preventer program as well as some other issues that come up when someone calls and complains that they may have a leak or they may have an issue or something, that this is able to go and triage that concern. This is inclusive of their salary and benefits, not just, they're not making $160,000 salary.
Oh, no, I understand
And
that.
then it's also inclusive of a vehicle, which is the lion's share of that 160.
The SC Tracking, I believe, is the company that we contracted with to track the
The tests.
registration
Yes.
and inspection of the backflow preventers. They charge a fee for that. Does the city get any revenue stream from that fee?
Just for the notices that may be sent out, but a very small amount. I think it's, no, actually, we do not get any of that revenue, sorry. Yeah,
all right.
they're completely autonomous.
The customers, how are we handling the customer service compliance now?
With staff on hand. So either our meter tech or our utility billing department call takers, as well as our water meter techs in Public Works.
So we're getting by without it right now.
We are.
Fair statement?
Keep in mind, this is on the water sewer side, so even if you were to eliminate this, it's not going to reflect a reduction on the property tax side.
But it's money that we may not necessarily have to spend. On the property tax side, when it comes to the $500,000 reserve savings account in the event of an emergency,
Yes, sir.
that is a per-year savings account. Do you have a total number in mind that you want to hit with that? How many years do we need to save up $500,000 a year?
Well, if Harvey was not Harvey, if Beryl was reflective of the type of storms, we need to save about 6 years or 7 years worth of that $500,000 just to be able to recover from a.
$3 to $4 million would be and then the $500,000 per year savings would go away.
It can go away, but if we have a storm, and then when are you going to replenish it? So,
Are you familiar with, there is, I believe, in the Texas Tax Code, an emergency tax rate, emergency disaster tax rate? You're nodding your head, yes. You're familiar with that. In the event of a storm, God forbid, as opposed to saving up $500,000 a year, maybe we could reduce that, and if the event happened before we had enough in the bank, we could utilize the emergency tax rate and implement that for a year or two, or up to 3, as I read it, to recover that storm recovery money.
So we have both the state law as well as our own charter to contend with, and our charter prohibits the issuance of debt unless an emergency situation. So we may be able to issue certificates of obligations to pay for response to an emergency, but we're not going to necessarily be able to, that's going to obligate future councils to this same can't touch us category once that debt is issued. So
It doesn't necessarily have to be debt. It would be, we pay it and then we recover it back in the following years, via the elevated tax rate, if I understood it correctly.
That's not how we would be able to operate it. No, sir.
Can you elaborate why we can't operate that way?
Well, we have our own charter that supersedes state law, and in areas that we're more restrictive, we have to comply with our charter.
Is that something that we could continue to discuss at the 11th meeting? And
We can continue to discuss it, yes. Yeah.
we'll leave it for now. Okay. I'm good.
So,
Sorry. Mayor Pro Tem,
no problem.
looking the wrong way.
Murad, this tax increase, was it predictable, let's say, after looking at this over the last year? I know I know how your budgetary process works, and I saw decision packages were basically shelved this year with the exception of the merit raises. But what's to say that the next year we're not going to have similar problems because of the contracts we've agreed to? I know that it looked like contracts were a significant portion of the problem, and so when we're looking at those contracts as they're being presented to council, I don't feel like we're looking at them one-off. We're not looking at them holistically of like, oh my goodness, this is going to raise our tax rate by $1 million next year, or not $1 million, but 2 cents, or, well, what is that, a penny and a half? So one of the things that we really need to be noticed of as council members is like, hey, this is a significant increase. Maybe we need a lower level of service on this particular item, whatever it is. Because at the current rate, if we continue this path, we were going to have significant problems in the near future. Now, I know we're going to have some debt service roll off potentially as long as we don't sell any more bonds. And that's coming up, what, 4 years from now?
Correct.
So I don't want to be in a situation where we're having the same conversation next year and the following year, because 4 pennies each year is a significant amount of money. 4.5 pennies this year is what, 170, 80 bucks for a typical $400,000 house or something like that.
Yes, sir. So the long and short of it is Friendswood is a slow growth community. So we're going to have this conversation multiple times over the next decade. Whereas communities such as League City and Galveston County, for that matter, are able to live off of new construction and basically kick the can down the road, Friendswood doesn't have that luxury. Unfortunately, though, we are faced with those large growth communities adjacent to us, so we're getting the same impacts and the same wear and tear to our infrastructure without the same contribution to the coffers to help pay for those things. The only way to offset that is to lower the level of service. Friendswood is predominantly a residential community and the residents unfortunately bear the brunt of that tax burden. We are trying to diversify that tax base with the commercial, but that's going to be slow in coming. We did see quite a bit of improvement in our sales tax side. Unfortunately, with the stuff that I reported to council about 6 weeks ago with Dick's Sporting Goods, some of that money has to go back. So we're going to always have this issue. Being a bedroom community with very slow growth, we saw a significant decrease in the number of new housing starts. That's going to be the case till we build out, and we don't have much left on the residential side till we build out. We have the property at D.R. Horton's talking about in Georgetown. We have the property along Wilderness Trails, and that's it. There's nothing left to develop in Friendswood that's residential. It's all going to be commercial, and even those commercial properties are plagued with floodplain issues, so.
So is there anything, and you kind of talked about deferred maintenance a little bit, and I've been subjected to this in my HOA, in that, like you said, people want to kick the can down the road, and then did that come into play in where we're at today, where there's so many deferred maintenance issues that, you know, now we're starting to have to pay for them?
It did. So over the last 20 years, 19 years that I've been here, good 11 of them, we did the no new revenue rate or less. The other years that we didn't were years that we issued debt that the voters said approve. Voters approved raising their taxes. So what that led to, the no new revenue rate at that time continually kicked the can down the road. So this budget is a culmination of 15 years of wanting to do what's bare minimum on the tax side and inadequately funding debt service, or not debt service, deferred maintenance.
Okay. What is the future on the debt service side? I can't remember how many pennies that's going to knock out if we do not issue any new debt.
So if we don't issue any new debt, I think it was going to come down to about $4 million in about 2023, to 2030 or 2031. And that $4 million would be about a $2 million reduction, so that's 4 pennies reduction. Now, keep in mind, we have, even though if we don't issue any new debt, there will still be need for projects. We have streets that are constantly in a state of disrepair. Eventually, we're going to have to issue debt to replace some of those things.
Sure. I'm just speaking, if we were to continue down this path, what that would look like. And I know some of the bond we were talking about roughly ended up being a penny on top of anything we discussed tonight.
Correct.
So, thank you.
So much like, sorry.
Anybody else over there? In this way?
Mr. Held, this is going back to your question about the disaster on the tax rate. So what that is right now we're able to go 3.5% above the no new revenue rate without going out for an election. If there was a disaster, we could go 8% above the no new revenue rate without going for an election if there was a disaster. The issue would be, would council want to do that? Because that would be fairly significant tax increase for the voters at that time. So what we're suggesting is to go ahead and save now rather than to wait for a disaster. Just go ahead and start preparing. But that's where that comes into play, I think what you were referring to. Okay.
It's a penny today, right?
And
Roughly.
we're still limited by our
Right,
charter.
right.
Councilmember Hanks.
So I've heard a couple of things that are resonating with me. One, the point that you brought up is really about forecasting, and as we approve contracts, what does this do to the budget? Are we encumbering ourselves for a higher tax rate? And I think that's a good point. But at the same time, what Mo just said, after being on council for 8 years, when I first got on council, we didn't have a line item for deferred maintenance. And you'll know that it made me very nervous not being able to plan for things within our tax rate. And so we lowered tax rates or we kept them the same, but we didn't have that deferred maintenance line item until just recently. Well, now you have the situation with the values that we haven't had either in the last 10 years. And so this is something new where they're saying they're coming back, and then you have the sales tax thing. So several things have happened that are adjusting that revenue, and then a slowdown in the building. But we know that's going to happen residentially in this community. Maybe not next year if Georgetown gets going and the other subdivision and a few other things, but nothing big like West Ranch or the Forest of Friendswood. So those days are kind of behind us. So forecasting is really, really important as we go through and approve those contracts throughout the year. But I do think that we are at a point where I feel comfortable passing this 4 cents because we didn't do it the years before. And we were kicking that can down the road. And it's not just for Burl. That's not the only thing that you have deferred maintenance for, an emergency. There are things that come up throughout the city that you've got to fund, and you're not always sure. I mean, a budget is a planning document, and things happen throughout the year, just like what we're seeing now with the appraisals and the building and things like that. But we keep growing. We're growing, we have a bigger population, and one thing I know, after living in Friendswood for 40-something years and working in this town, people want what they want, and they want what they have. And so it's a lot easier not to add anything than it is to take away. So to reduce services, people aren't going to understand that, in my opinion. People do not understand that. So I think, it's unfortunate, and I know when Pastor Ross said the prayer tonight, he said something about giving us courage. I think it does take courage to sit on council and to do what's best for the city and the citizens, and knowing what we know. and to be frugal. But as Sally said earlier too, the process, and I think, Michael, you said it too, or Randy, the process that our staff goes through is really commendable, because I can tell you it doesn't happen that way. It didn't happen that way when I was in the school district. Everybody wanted what they wanted, and they didn't look at it together as a group and say, this is what we can do. We know the council can only do this much in a tax rate. We have to be more frugal. So I really commend you for that, and I trust you. I really have a lot of trust in this staff. They're a professional staff. Many of them live in this community, pay the same taxes we do. And so I'm comfortable too, Mayor. I think it just happened that it was this year. But it was, I can tell you, it was going to happen when you have not planned for that over 10 years and you didn't have deferred maintenance items, and you know, it was going to happen at some point. So I am comfortable with that.
The other trend that we've seen, and this is no reflection of y'all, is we're aging population. The last 2 decennial censuses, we've grown by over 15 years of age. Our free ceilings increase by double digits every year, meaning the burden of property tax shifts from those frozen taxes to those that don't qualify for that tax burden. So that plays a huge function in our tax rate calculation.
Kind of like what Trish just said, you know, this is not rocket science up here, okay? These decisions are not that hard to come to. We look at the facts, you present us with the numbers, you say, hey, this is what we need to pay for, this is how much money we need to raise. Okay. They're just, decisions are a little bit hard to vote on sometimes, you know, it's a little bit, but let's face it, the facts are the facts, you know, and it wasn't a hard decision when you, and you know, we talk about this 4 cents. Well, it was the same 4 cents a month ago before preliminary numbers moved to our final numbers here, and it's the same 4 cents. So like you said, it's going to be hard to make that decision too, because we're adding 4 cents to, you know, but still, it's 4 cents.
bound to happen.
We haven't spent, and we've saved up that money. So now, sorry, we need to put that money into some coffers to be ready for some things, so.
So, Robert, you haven't spoken, so by all means.
For me, what I'm having a problem with is our appraisals have not gone down. Our appraisals went up again this year, went up $5.6 billion, over $430 million of added appraised value to the properties in Galveston County. Friendswood's part of that. And what bothers me is we went through a possible bond, putting bonds out there, and the committee came up and they said, over the last 10 years, the appraised values in Friendswood have gone up 95%. And as an accolade to that, they said, well, the city of Friendswood has lowered their tax rate 7.7 cents. Well, 7.7 cents lowered over 10 years when the property appraised values have gone up 95% is not really that good. But when you look at what our tax rate was in 2015, it was 56 cents. And today, all of that 7.7 cents we were talking about with the 95% raised appraised value, we're right back up at 56 cents. So I don't think that Friendswood has a revenue problem. We kind of have a spending problem, in my estimation on that. And I see what we're spending the money on, and I know how important each one of these items are, but it's still a hard pill for me to swallow. And when I look at last year, we were at 116 million total revenue for the budget. The year before that, I can't right off the top of my head recall it, but now we're looking at $129 million. And our 90-day reserve has gone from 6 million to 8 million to 10 million over the last 3 years. So that is a product, the 90-day reserve is a product of our spending. And it's Katina, you can go ahead and tell us exactly what, I think it's 25% of what we spent last year. So we go up every year on the 90-day reserve. And one of the ways that I have gauged whether we were retaining too much money or not retaining enough money is that amount of money in the general fund balance that was over the 90-day reserve. So when it got down in this was budget, well, this is a new budget. So it had gotten down to $12 million, and I thought, okay, that is over the 90-day reserve. That's getting a little bit tight. That started to concern me. So this last year, we went up to $16.4 million over the 90-day reserve. This year, we're asking the taxpayers to provide the city of Friendswood $19.4 million over the 90-day reserve.
The $19.4 million is inclusive of the 90-day reserve. It's not over.
not
So
over.
our over 90-day reserve is $250,000.
And that's product of also our 90-day reserve going to 90 million, going to 10 million.
$10 million, which is a reflection of 3 months of our operating budget. You had mentioned that our property value went up. Our net taxable value, regardless of what values did, went up $59 million in Friendswood, period. That includes the freezes, that includes all the exemptions. So new construction.
I just got the book Friday, and I have been trying to pore over it and trying to read various different things, and I have seen the total 5.6 million. I saw that those values, $430 million over that. I haven't had the opportunity to wipe out what's exemption,
Yes,
what's over 65 exemption, homestead exemption. I haven't had a chance to really wrap my head around that.
Yes, sir.
So for me, right now, I don't feel comfortable adopting 55 or 56. It's 55.97 cents. I can probably get there based on what, has been presented. But I'd also like to go back. We just had an audit report in September, and you all will all recall in the audit report that we were $2 million over over what we collected, what we budgeted for. So we're budgeting $32 million in tax revenue for the general fund from ad valorem taxes.
32 million total.
Total.
That's debt service and general fund.
Okay, yeah, okay, $32 million. Well, we had done that in the audit report to the year before, and we collected $2 million more than we had budgeted for. So I would just like to have just a little bit of opportunity to go over really what the audit report is to me is our true balance sheet. It's what we spent, it's what we recovered and collected in revenue. In September, that is our balance sheet, I think, for me anyway, because it's a true, it's an audited report, and it shows and explains exactly where we came in relation to our budgets. And I know, as the mayor mentioned, that we try to be conservative because that's smart to be conservative. We don't want to be behind the 8 ball. We just saw over in Hitchcock, in some of the sales tax estimations that they did over there, I believe it was Hitchcock, but they had anticipated the sales tax bringing in a lot more revenue to the city. That didn't happen. So they had a shortfall.
We've had that happen here.
We've had that happen here, and we haven't had a recession. We have not had a recession in quite some time. And when we have a recession, there's going to be some people in the city of Friendswood that are going to come, and they're going to talk to city staff, and they're going to talk to each one of us up here. And they're going to go, what were y'all thinking? And the property values will go down instead of up. So like I said, I can probably get there. I might not get to 56 cents because this is really 56 cents. But I would just like to get my head around it a little better.
Yes, sir.
And like I said, I just got the book Friday, and I've been on it Sunday and pretty much all day today. And like I said, I'm just not comfortable with it right now. And I think I can get there, Rhonda and Katina, but right at this moment, I'm not comfortable with it.
And that's the fair position, obviously. You got it Friday simply because it was a function of when we got certified values from the appraisal districts.
Which was on time.
Yeah. And keep in mind, it's certified.
We got till September. I know some would like to just get this over with right now and move right on. I just can't do that.
When council receives the audit report in the March timeframe, March-April timeframe, our monthly financial reports are updated, and that value goes into the monthly financial report that establishes this is what's in the bank, this is what can be used for these
and I love that.
restricted reserves, so on and so forth. And the amount of money above the 90-day reserve is our cushion. And based upon the audited report, we only have $250,000. And we'll have a budget amendment tonight.
You're expecting some refunds.
We got that refund. That 3.2, that's what pushed us over, because we were in the red.
Let me have a little more time
Yes, sir.
with the budget. Like I said, I can probably get there, but right now, I'm not comfortable raising the taxes.
And completely fair.
The no new net revenue rate that has been calculated based on the dollars that we've gotten is actually higher than the flat tax rate that
Correct.
we accepted for the last 3 years in a row. So even if we all accepted the no new net revenue rate, that would be a tax increase over the flat rate that we had adopted for the last 3 years.
And that's a function of values going down. Now, it's not everybody's value going down. It's certain exemptions going up, some values going down, and other values going up. So
It's hard for me to just take away all that people might have savings going forward, and then all of a sudden the city comes in and takes all that away and says, now you're going to have to pay.
I wish it was a linear equation. I honestly do. With all the exemptions that are in place, it makes it extremely difficult. The chart that Rhonda was referring to, that's a 14-page document that goes into calculating the no new revenue rate. Much like doing your federal income taxes, it's not an easy process.
Yeah.
And we are probably the only city that has the certified employees to be able to do that same tax rate. You have to take courses and take an exam in order to qualify for that.
And I just want to mention this. Cheryl Johnson does a great job about getting this information to us. It's incredibly good, and she actually went in and helped with the calculations for the Harris County side, because we do not have, it's good just for everybody to know, we do not have certified numbers for the Harris County side. So we as a dais and the mayor are all just a little bit blind going into these numbers, but we really are fortunate that Cheryl did provide us with some I looked at that tax return calculation too, and I was like, holy moly, but that includes what we feel comfortable about with Harris County appraisals. That's what we feel.
So we have certified estimates from Harris County, so they're exempted by state law because of their population, that they don't have to give it on July 25th like Galveston County.
Okay.
So we have certified estimates, which means that we don't have on a per parcel basis a certified value.
Yeah, so that's good for everybody to know too, that we got a pretty good idea.
Correct.
On the certified estimates, but it's not actual.
So when you referenced earlier that we received more money in property tax revenue than we anticipated, we do have very small amount, but we do have delinquent accounts that are out there that date back 10, 15 years. As our delinquent attorneys are able to recover those dollars, they're recorded in that fiscal year that they're received, but they may be from prior year tax delinquencies.
And I did notice in that report too, that it's been 99% for 25 and 24, but this year they're anticipating 94 cents. So 94%. So you have to wonder what's going on out there in our community, that people are struggling, that 6% of our people are struggling just to pay those taxes.
We are in unprecedented times with low employment and high interest rates.
I think clarify that, would you?
That right now they're thinking of collecting about 94%?
I don't think that's right.
That
Did I
is a
read
number
that
that, no, you did not read that wrong. That is a number that we questioned as well. And Cheryl Johnson also agreed that she felt like that was low, but it's some number that she's pulling from a report at a certain period in time that she uses for this calculation. So we did question it, because right now it looks like we're collecting about 97, 98% for tax year 2025. So, and that's a percent she uses for calculating the voter approval tax rate. And so,
I read that in.
but we did question it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And we didn't get a real good answer, but, yeah, it's just a snapshot at a certain period of time, so.
We move
So-
over to Councilmember Hanks and.
My last
might be able to
comment.
Wrap up this item.
Yeah, my last comment. So for me, you know how I am about, because the schools do it differently, which I think is better. When you look at the large number, the 100 and whatever, yes, go back to that slide. That is not operational cost. And, you know, you and I have had this conversation. If there was some way that you could separate that when we're talking, because that's what I look at. What is our real operational cost? How much are we going up on operational cost from year to year to year? Because remember, when we sold those bonds, we told everybody, too, that it would probably be 5 cents that we would need to raise to pay for those bonds. But we didn't raise the tax rate, the 5 cents to pay for the bonds. In the school district, that's what they do. They keep them separate, and they go ahead and add that 5 cents and pay the bond. But we don't. We put it all, and it's all calculated in this, correct me if I'm wrong, Katina and them, but it's all calculated in the no new revenue. All of those calculations goes into whatever we owe to pay the bonds back. So we can't touch the money, but it all goes into that total calculation of the tax rate. So we never raised that 5 cents for the bond. We never did. We put it into our tax rate at the time. And so you have to kind of remember that too, because that is a large chunk of money of that 129.4 million. That's a large chunk of money. Plus that also includes some from last year, which you explained too. So part of that is carryover. But that is a difficult thing when you're with the city, because for the schools, it's all separated and so clean. But here, it's not. So when I look at, well, how are we doing? I look at what was our maintenance and operation last year to this year to the next year, and we took in the money for the bonds, and that was, I think, a mistake too. But anyway,
No,
I
and
think
this
we
is-
should have raised it then to pay for the bonds, but that's okay, and put it in deferred maintenance more. But that's okay. That's water under the bridge. But it catches up with you, is what I'm saying.
It does, and this graph is very indicative of that. If you look at, this is our operational cost, the majority of it being personnel and benefits. It's relatively flat. The growth was when we brought EMS into city employees and the 16 new employees that were approved last year. Again, thank you. It's helped us to keep up with the demand for the calls for service, but that does add a cost to the city that's ongoing and moving forward. This year's budget, you're seeing a very slight increase over last year. It's only 1.4% over the personnel cost last year. Keep in mind, our employees that work for us are experiencing 3-4% inflation as well. So everything that's happening in the economy is also happening to our staff.
But the total maintenance and operation of the city, what's that budget going up?
$2 million.
Okay, but what percentage?
So 2 million on across,
And that doesn't include any,
2 million over 45, so 0.5%.
okay, so that doesn't,
The math to verify.
that's the general, it doesn't include any bond, the debt service, okay.
I'm gonna let them use a calculator so I don't miscalculate in my head.
The general fund is increasing mostly by those items listed as afforded so far.
Yes.
That's where the biggest increase. That's what's causing the increase of 4% over the no new revenue rate.
Right.
So,
But it's because we're paying for the other within our tax rate. Yeah.
My last question on that, thank you, Trish, I really do appreciate that, is the 500, the severe weather expectations. I know
sir.
this is really not a very large amount, $500,000, but that is anticipating that the federal government will not support us at all with any reimbursed expenses like Burl, right?
Correct.
Now, I would be hard pressed to, they may not reimburse us to the same extent as they have done in the past, but I would be hard pressed for any of those politicians up there to say, we're not going to pay you anything, especially when they got to get elected and they need to spend money in emergency situations and FEMA comes swooping in to help people out. So, I mean, this is a very small amount, 500,000. So it's not really in the big scheme of things, but I don't think that we're in a situation where we can't anticipate some help. But whether it would be at the same extent.
Told us they would not have reimbursed the 3.4
4 million.
million for Barrel.
So they're not reimbursing any of that?
Nothing.
It was not meeting a threshold, large enough disaster.
So the difficulty the feds are facing is they're seeing more and more payouts due to the increased number of storms. And they're not collecting enough in order to pay for that. On the flooding side, for instance, not enough people have flood insurance. And I will take this moment to say, whether you live in a floodplain or not, buy flood insurance. It's the best investment you've ever made in your life. But so the feds are trying to shave off some of their obligations because of it. We've seen this with insurance companies. We did go out and evaluate the purchase of private insurance rather than setting aside these funds, and it was going to be the same $500,000 a year expenditure without a guarantee of payout. The private insurance company said that you either had a certain wind threshold met or a certain flood damage met in order to be paid out, but it was based upon the weather radars, not based upon the actual damages incurred. So that put us at a quandary. Do you set aside $500,000 a year for private insurance and then not be able to cash in when you need it? $500,000 is a relatively arbitrary number. We picked that because that's what the private insurance were going to cost. But if y'all want to only set aside $250,000 or $1 million, that's up to you. There's no telling what the right amount is. If we have a storm this year, the $500,000 is not enough to cover it. So we're just starting to set aside funds so that we can be in a position to better provide service to our community. I don't want to be the individual to tell people we're not going to pick up debris after a storm. That's the last thing a resident wants to hear.
Rod, I think I'm hearing a lot of support for this going forward. I think hopefully you're hearing that too. We have, like Robert's mentioned, we have a little more time.
Correct.
Just to settle in and for us to get our hands around it and be comfortable with it. I know you'll get there, Robert.
And if you feel like it can go ahead and go now, you can.
So we do have.
Do tonight is, and I can explain this if you
Yes.
want. We are required to publish our tax rate
In the paper,
in the paper.
legally.
I don't know when, tomorrow, next week. So we have to pick a number tonight, and we cannot come back later and say we want to go above that. We can come back later and say we could go below that. So if we pick the 55.9 tonight, say, put that in the paper. Publish it, because public hearing, people will respond to that. They have to have some number to come back and talk to us about. So that's a later item, but basically what we're working towards is enough support tonight just to publish that number and then get comfortable with it the next week, the next month, because we have until.
Well, we certainly made it public tonight, and I think we can publish that. I can agree to publish it.
Well, all right, so don't jump ahead. Let's just get let's.
Let him make the motion, right?
But I don't know.
All right, well, that's item 8D. I'll have you read this in a few minutes, but let us try to get through a couple more items, Murad. Item 8B, consider setting a public hearing regarding the City of Friendswood fiscal year 2026-2027 municipal budget for August 24th, 2026 at 5:30 PM in council chambers, this room, City Hall, 910 South Friendswood Drive, Friendswood, Texas. Any questions? You know, we do this every year. We're setting the public hearing so that people know that's the time and date for them to come, and if they want to discuss that number with us, that's when they show up. So can I get a motion on that?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. Any more discussion on setting a public hearing? All in favor? Okay, 7-0. 8C, receive the 2026 appraisal rolls by the Galveston Central Appraisal District. Thank you, Cheryl. Don, you could pass that on to your wife. And the Harris Central Appraisal District, the anticipated collection rate and the excess debt collection certified by the city's tax collector, and the no new revenue and voter-approved tax rates. Rhonda, you want to?
So the rolls are.
You're in my notes, Rhonda, but throw it to Murad. Any more comments on that? I mean, we've shown the numbers.
You've heard the spiel already, so there's no more comments on that.
Okay, anybody have any questions for Rhonda, Murad, or anyone? Can I get a
Motion to approve.
Second.
motion and a second? All in favor? Unanimous, okay, we're rolling. All right. Robert?
Okay, 8D, motion to be made. I move that the City of Friendswood propose a tax rate of 55.9723 cents per $100 valuation. This rate is effectively an 8.71% or 4.5 cent increase in the tax rate above the no new revenue rate of 51.4843 cents. The proposed rate is 4.56 cents more than the city's current tax rate of 51.4172 cents and 2.73 cents less than the voter approval tax rate with the unused increment.
All right, I second that motion. Any more discussion on that?
Now, this is to publish it.
Published the number.
This is,
We'll hear from the public.
you'll vote officially on November 14th. This is simply to publish it. Again, you
September.
can go down. September 14th, sorry. Yeah.
All right, all in favor? Okay, publish that. 8E, consider setting the public hearing regarding the ad valorem tax rate for 2026 on September 14th, 2026 at 5:30 PM in the council chamber, City Hall, Friendswood Drive, Friendswood, Texas. Any questions or comments on this? That's the date that we're going to vote on the tax rate.
So move.
No.
I move to schedule a public hearing on the proposed tax rate on September the 14th, 2026 at 5:30 PM in the council chamber of City Hall to afford proponents and opponents of the proposed tax increase to present their views.
I'll second that motion. Any questions? All in favor? Good job. 7-0. So that takes care of our budget items for tonight. Now we revert back to our work session topics. Raquel, are you giving me the, you giving me the recess nod? You're okay? Are you saying? How about we take 10 minutes, real quick? Everyone that needs a hygiene break, please come back quickly. We'll try to get started. Good job. We just need one more.
Michael.
Doing a little better every single day.
All right.
To go, but he's doing good. Thanks.
Item 7, work session topics, 7A. Seven A, discuss the 2026 proposed bond propositions and bond election to be held on November 3rd, 2026, presented again by City Manager Murad Kabiri. You're taking all the tough ones.
So if you're tired of me, you can tell me to sit down and we can move on to item 7B. You may recall, council, that we spent the last 6+ months with the bond ad hoc committee that evaluated the city's needs. There was 35 members plus the council liaison member, Councilmember Hanks, that evaluated all the city's needs and came back with a recommendation to y'all earlier this year of $50.9 million worth of projects. Council at the retreat said, thank you to the bond committee, but they have some additional input that they wanted to further refine that. It wasn't, and those red X's aren't intended to insult the committee's work, but this is for just demonstration purposes only that we heard the direction that y'all gave us at the retreat on the 8th. With respect to drainage, council felt that the investments that were highlighted with the master drainage plan didn't provide sufficient benefit to put those bond dollars before the voters just yet, so y'all recommended, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong.
In the committee's defense, bond committee did not have these numbers that we got from the master drainage.
That is correct, because both those efforts ran concurrent with one another just due to timing of the grant. In addition to the red X you have on the screen, we went and got a quote to TV, the lines just that were identified in that plan, and it was going to be $3.2 million just to TV and clean those storm sewer lines. So we continue the promise that we do right now. If you believe that your line is clogged, please contact the city and we can take a look at that particular segment of line. But to go proactively and TV all the lines that were identified in that is not financially possible, especially given the prior discussion that we just had.
Okay, I have a question there because this was one of the reasons why I didn't want to move forward with this proposal, was because I wanted more information on our existing sewer lines, because this is more sewer line, this is more
Correct.
neighborhood prevention, and I didn't feel like we had a good scope of where we were with our sewer lines now, and then to go ahead and put bond dollars up for it that I didn't think we really had a good idea what we were spending that money on. So you're telling me right now that just to scope those sewer lines would be $3.2 million?
Yes, sir. And keep in mind, the model that was created by Half and Associates assumed that those lines were free and clear. And even with those lines being free and clear, they identified them as a problem. So if they're further impacted because they're clogged in some way, shape, or form, that just exacerbates the issue. So the model itself functioned properly in identifying storm sewer lines that were undersized. So it can only get worse if they're clogged. Now, we do respond very quickly. If you have a section of line that you're concerned about, our guys go pop manholes and they look in there, and we do have smaller TV equipment that we can send in some of these lines and jet them out. Typically, you're going to find lawn clippings, tree branches, things that naturally make their way to the storm sewers. I encourage folks to, when they're done mowing their lawns, blow it back into their yard or pick up. I hope none of y'all are behind me when I'm driving, because if it's a slow traffic day, I will stop and I will pick up whatever's in the street. So my apologies if I stop short on any of y'all. But if everybody would do that, we can identify some things that to prevent those clogs from happening. Yes?
That says and clean the sewers in selected areas. So the selected areas are the ones they identified.
Correct.
And so this means to not just look at them, but also to clean those.
Correct. Then we get to streets and transportation. Council had given us some direction based upon what they heard from the bond committee, as well as what they felt from previous presentations that were made to them. We had previously set aside $1 million for construction of new sidewalks to fill in gaps. As you recall, we had an active transportation plan completed, and HGAC's consultant gave a presentation to council. Based upon that presentation, the dollar amount for sidewalks was increased to $10 million, and it would be a standalone proposition if we were to move forward with the bond election. Bay Area Boulevard, we have some more refined numbers from an outside engineering firm to give us a better understanding of what realistically it would cost us. It still doesn't have the full-scale scope that we're talking about later on in this agenda to do a subsurface evaluation. But for Bay Area, from 528 to the wastewater treatment plant, it's about $7 million. So based upon council's direction on July 8th, we would have a bond proposition for $10 million for sidewalks and $11 million for those streets that are there. I know my former mayor neighbor, Mr. Fitzpatrick's in the audience. He would love to see Murphy Lane redone. So the sidewalk proposition it's as presented on that screen. This is what we legally would have to put on the ballot. As you can tell, it's very easy to decipher and read. Again, if you have any gripes, please take it up with your state representative. But $10 million for sidewalks throughout the city based upon that, the plan that HGAC completed. For streets, $11 million for streets with the Bay Area Boulevard from 528 to the wastewater treatment plant, Stadium Lane and Murphy Lane explicitly being listed in the bond proposition. If there are leftover funds, once those projects got completed, then those dollars can be reallocated to other city streets. But those projects would have to be undertaken first.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, sir.
On the future item where we're going to talk about approving, or if it's in the consent agenda, the study on Bay Area Boulevard.
Yes, sir.
You and I talked about it briefly in our pre-agenda meeting, our pre-meeting agenda review.
Yes, sir.
There's a possibility that Harris County may participate in some form or fashion in redoing Bay Area Boulevard. So
yes, sir.
If that were to happen, the cost could be reduced, and this bond wouldn't necessarily have to be $7 million, or if it was, then there could be other things done with it. But that could factor into the bond decision as well.
It could. And speaking big picture, not just of streets, but in general, these estimates are just that, they're estimates. Without doing full-scale surveying and detailed engineering, we can't tell you emphatically what the cost of the project's going to be. And even then, when we do that activity, we have to then go out and bid it, and then I can tell you what the costs are. Unfortunately, with bidding requirements as stipulated by state law and the process we have to go through to have bond elections, there's no way to do that work beforehand unless the city wanted to, on $50 million worth of projects, spend $5+ million worth of dollars for engineering and then determine at the end of the engineering we're not going to pursue it. That's, as you saw in the last item, $2.2 million on the budget is 4 pennies on the tax rate. So The short answer is yes, we're fairly optimistic the Harris County Precinct 2 would partner with us, but I can't guarantee you that that is the case, nor can I guarantee you it's going to be $7 million till we have the full scoping completed, the project designed and out for bids. On the parks and open space side, you identified wanting to move forward with the Stevenson Park parking lot expansion and related improvements. Sports complex upgrades at Renwick and Centennial Park. These are lighting and re-crowning fields that are out there. The bulkhead at Lake Friendswood and the trail repair of roughly $2.4 million. And then with respect to the pool at Stevenson Park, going with the option 3, which was a $50 million, or 50-meter pool, not 50 million. And that coming out to roughly $7 million, and that included also some aquatic playground equipment and stuff at the pool. The total Parks and Rec proposition would be about $16.8 million. If we were to move forward, the bond proposition would read as such. Again, I'm not going to read all those. It would highlight the projects that we talked about, and then if there were leftover funds, then they could be applied to other parks throughout the city. On the community center, we settled the debate whether or not it's a rec center or a community center, and we're going with a community center based on the direction that City Council gave us at the July 8th meeting. Revising the scope to roughly 36,000 to 40,000 square feet for just a community center, basically areas for people to meet and congregate, to have voting location. That would be fantastic. The dollar amount was lowered from the $47 million to $16 million, in line with the price per square foot that our architect gave us both in 2019 as well as 2024. The proposition would read as follows. This one would be limited to just that property on Morningside. So if there's any leftover funds, it would not be allowed to be reapplied, but it could be invested into this location. With respect to other city facilities, we removed the one fuel island at both fuel islands that were being proposed. We are looking to find a way to fund the one on the Harris County side at our Public Works facility at Blackhawk. We did, based on council's recommendation, look at expanding the parking lot at the Public Safety Building behind Fire Station 1, expansion of Fire Station 4 to add some additional bay and dormitory space, and then revising the scope at City Hall. So the city facilities would be broken up into 2 propositions. The first one is public safety, the parking lot expansion and the expansion of Fire Station 4 at $4.7 million. And then the standalone proposition for City Hall, $500,000, only to look at the mechanical and plumbing upgrades to the facility, not looking at a full-scale remodel. Keep in mind, if this bond proposition were to pass, we would not issue $500,000 as a standalone item. It would not make financial sense to do that from a bond issuance standpoint. This would be married to another debt issuance so that we can share in the bond issuance cost. If all the bond propositions failed except this one, then we would have to figure, it wouldn't be prudent to issue just $500,000, but that would be our only option. Maybe we can couple it with a refunding bond or something if that were to happen, but we'll see. So what does that do to our tax rate? The culmination of all those projects is slightly higher than what the bond committee recommended. It brings us in at 59 million, a little under 59.1. If we were to issue it in one fell swoop, yes, it would raise the tax rate on the debt service side well over the penny that the bond committee wanted to stay below. Realistically, we don't have the staff to complete all the projects in one calendar year. As you saw from our carryover dollars from one budget year to the next on the capital project side, we would issue it in about 3 bond issuances that would keep us well below that 1 cent tax impact. That's just on the debt service side. If we build some of these facilities, they're larger in square footage, will require more operations and maintenance costs. So you will see pressures and growth on the operations and maintenance, not just the debt service side of the equation. So the $1 million question, or the $59 million question, is what does council want to do? If you want to move forward with the bond election, we need to call an election on August 11th. You can't call it legally tonight because it's too far in advance of the election. If you don't want to have a bond election, then that makes our job a little easier, and then we can move on. So I'm looking for feedback from y'all.
Well, you know, one thing about bond elections is that they're all taxpayer-voted expenditures. You know, the most democratic process we could possibly have is to let our voters come out and say yes or no to these projects, and should we do these or not, and putting, you know, a Chinese menu like we got here, 6 different items, you know, to pick and choose from, gives you all the options, gives the voter all the options. And, you know, I'm fine with giving our voters those options. The thing that's sticking in my craw right now is that this election, if we called it for November 3rd, is going to cost the city $150,000.
What?
How can that be?
That was on the budget charts a little earlier.
How can that be, really? I mean,
So it's a combination of not having an election. This is an off-cycle election for the city of Friendswood. It's a combination. Just the council election we had this past May was over $50,000. We don't own the equipment. We're subject to the cost that Harris County and Galveston County charge for the use of their, now, we can buy our own equipment. It would cost $200,000 plus. And then we're also liable for the validity of those results. Sorry, $500,000.
I really know the answer to that.
Oh, sorry.
I was kind of making you know, I thought Letty was our election person was in here when how can this cost $150,000? And there were gasps around the room. You missed it, but.
If I had curls, I would clutch them, so.
Well, that's a
Pearls.
special election expense in there. Yeah.
To buy the equipment, you're looking at $500,000 just to buy the equipment. You would still have to secure a facility with the security levels required by the state in order to maintain it. So you're looking at a massive investment. The November elections tend to be more expensive because there's more polling locations, there's more staff, and all other kinds of things.
Could you repeat all that?
Right,
in
you're
the
going to have to
microphone?
come up to the, you're just mumbling out there.
My apologies. As it relates to the purchase of equipment, it's about a $500,000 investment. Aside from the staffing, the building, and the security required in order to maintain the election equipment within the guidelines of state law, which is very restrictive, it would be $1 million, $2 million investment. Just to
I'm
start.
not suggesting that. I'm just
Okay.
saying that the $150,000 is
$150,000 is a little bit higher than you expect from a May election because in November, we are required under the law to do the joint elections with the separate counties. We can't minimize it and hold it only with Galveston County or reduce the number of polling locations. November tends to be larger, especially this one because it's going to be the midterm. So you're looking at a very large ballot with state, federal, county, all the way down to the local. So the number of polling locations will be extremely large in both Galveston and Harris County, and we do pay for countywide. While it's a share of it, that just the sheer amount of locations and the staff to put it together, you're looking at easily over $100,000. You have additional publications, you have additional translations, you have additional postings. All of those things are wrapped into that estimated amount. Another thing that we plan for in this number is should the new Senate bill go into play for the November election, there are additional things that we would have to pay for. So we wrap that number into the 150. Yes, sir.
Now, Letty, if this was just held during one of our regular May elections, what would the additional cost be? Because I think each one of those was, our May elections about 26,000 or?
So our May elections, it depends, sir. So if it is a May of an even-numbered year, we can hold that election with Galveston County, and we tend to come in between $50,000 and $60,000. Of course, with a bond election, there will be additional publications and additional translations. So you're looking.
Certainly not 150.
It's not 150. If you do it in an odd May of an odd numbered year, you're looking a little bit higher for the Harris County portion, so around $70,000, $80,000.
I'll go back to my original point. I like bond elections because the voters get to decide. And yeah, we'll pay for the election if council decides we want to do that. And that's the cost of, being the city of Friendswood, the government operating this way, and we'll do it. But I was taken aback by the fact that elections have gotten so expensive. So, other comments?
Brad, what is the economic impact of putting this off till late, let's say next May? Will those projected cost increase?
So it depends on what happens globally, in all honesty. We're seeing quite a bit of pressures on the fuel side, which drives a lot of bid prices up. It was mentioned earlier tonight by Councilmember Griffon that we haven't hit a recession yet. Until we hit a recession, construction prices will not come down. It's a function of the interest rates that are out there. It's a function of the economic climate. Despite folks hurting, people are still buying a lot of stuff, so inflation continues to go up. That being said, waiting 6 months is not the end of the world. In fact, some things may level out. Hopefully, we'll start seeing some easing of the inflation rates, and maybe the feds will lower interest rates. Fingers crossed, they held steady this last week. But something could break in the meantime to make the repair more costly. It's anybody's guess. I know that didn't answer your question, and I apologize.
Thank you. Yeah.
This is a work session, so unlike other topics on the, you can just don't jump on top of somebody else as long as you're being gentlemanly or ladylike.
Okay.
Courteous.
So if a bond propositional election were to go forward, I had said early on that, as far as I'm concerned, every item should be an absolute standalone item. Obviously, if it's too low a dollar amount, that won't work. But looking at city facilities, project details, just a factual question here. If you combine this $750,000 with the $500,000 in maintenance for the facilities, and then do the fire station as a standalone?
So legally, no. So the way the state law reads, public safety and city hall are two distinct and different functions, and they can't be coupled together. A lot of times when things don't make sense, I'm going to blame the state because, in fact, it is what the state prescribes us to do. So that's a very good question. I asked the same thing of our attorney, and she said, no, we couldn't combine them.
Well, for me, I hate to be a broken record, but I don't know how we went from $50 million from the bond committee to $59 million, when in my mind, the only thing that we need is a community center. And we went from 69,000 square feet down to between 34 and 40,000 square feet for $16 million, based on a per square price of $357 a square foot, which is the number that's been provided to us by the architect. Now, I know that you can do that cheaper in the public sector, but to me, that's really the only need we have. And I don't know how sidewalks went from 1 million to 10 million. It just boggles my mind that that could have gone from 1 million to 10 million. But based on my recommendation, I think that we could finance it without raising taxes. But if you looked at 16 million, that would be 34 1,000ths of 1 penny. 0.003 would be into the thousands of a penny. So to me, we don't have a community center. We don't have places for people to vote. We don't have what I believe would be a huge add to the downtown area, and I just think that old library that's been there since forever, and the needs that it has and the cost that it has, that's really the only item that I saw. That I see that is an absolute need. Other than that, I do know that Murphy Road needs to be fixed and Stadium Road needs to be fixed. But we have, Rhonda, how much in our?
So we have about
$11 million.
We have 11 million. The over 9 million is already committed on projects. Keep in mind,
Part of that is
part of that is Blackhawk.
Blackhawk.
The remainder is Windsong Road, which is just as bad as Murphy Lane that's under design.
I think we need to Stadium and Murphy, we need to bring into our construction, road construction planning, and I don't want to upset my dear friend Tony, but I mean, I would not vote for a bond election right now, but if we were, and I don't want to spend $150,000 for a community center, I would rather put that on a regular election time. But really, to me, that's really a need that I feel like the city needs versus some of the other things that have shown up on here. And everybody has their pet project, and I know that, but that's mine, and that's, like I said, I'm a broken record in that. That's where I'm at.
Well, I'm the reason the sidewalks went up.
I know, Sally.
We know.
We know that. Went up was because of the study that HGAC did, and that came straight out of the study.
But I thought it was 8 million.
I'm pretty sure it was 10,
Or
wasn't
was it 10 million?
Yeah, yeah. So, and I agree, we need a community center. We need that badly. But to sit here and judge whether this should be on or this should be off, I want to thank the city, first of all, because y'all did listen to us and you did revamp this per what we talked about in the workshop on July the 8th. So I'm very grateful for that.
Me too.
I am still struggling, and I'm on the fence. I have not made up my mind. $150,000 to run, just to offer it for the citizens to say yay or nay. When we're sitting here pinching our pennies as hard as we are, I have a hard time with that. I also have a hard time throwing a bond election on the same cycle as a council and mayor election. That's tricky as well. And I know legislators talking about potentially bond elections will only happen in November at some point in time if the legislation goes through, correct?
That is correct. There's some propositions that are currently being evaluated, as well as rate caps being evaluated each year. So a lot of this stuff may be answered for us. It won't come any less expensive. It will be more expensive if that were the case, but yes.
So back to the cap, so they're talking about lowering it down to 1 cent. And that goes back to our
1%, correct.
That goes back to our property tax rate that we may or may not be setting. Okay.
Correct.
I'm undecided. Those are just my questions, but Robert, I'm the reason the sidewalks are so expensive.
You are, that's why I said it.
All right.
But you blamed me.
He's blaming me.
Any more thoughts or questions? We have until next Tuesday when we meet to decide on bonds, yay or nay.
Well, if a bond election must be held, then I'll repeat that I don't think they need to be bundled any more than they have to be. Every item could be a standalone, because then we actually let the voters decide what their priorities are. My priorities, what I want, doesn't really matter. I'm up here to ask y'all what you want, so I'll leave that at that. But I think right now, in this atmosphere, with what we're doing with the budget, I don't believe spending $150,000 right now would be a wise investment for a bond election. So I would like that not to happen right now. But if it does happen, I'd like it not to be packaged as any way to influence the voter one way or the other. So
Yes, sir.
Figuratively speaking, 2 cents.
I will state that we have 2 contracts right now under the consent agenda for Galveston County and Harris County that we would have to award tonight if we are going to have a bond election. Obviously, if we're not, we can forego those items. I do have concerns with, just speaking for myself, not all of staff, because there are staffs that are responsible that I task with maintaining these facilities. And if I say no bond election and then tomorrow something breaks, they're in my office yelling at me saying, I told you so. But given the economic climate right now, it may be best to postpone the bond election. Hopefully we can see some reduced pressures in a lot of construction costs, and these projects may come in cheaper. But the operative word there is may. I cannot guarantee what the economy will do. In 2009, I was considered a hero because we did the 518 drainage project for 50 cents on the dollar, but we were also coming off the heels of the subprime mortgage. Everything lined up. But until we have another recession, we're going to continue to see continued construction price increases.
So if we approve the 2 items on the consent agenda for the election, do we spend money?
We start to spend money. Until the elections are held, we don't spend money, obviously.
Even if we approve those go-aheads on those contracts tonight and then decide next Tuesday we're not going to do that, we haven't spent any money. Is that what you're telling me? Can we?
Theoretically, yes.
Theoretically?
Yeah, and we wouldn't have, so what the item is to authorize the city manager to negotiate contracts, if I remember the language appropriately, or? Okay. So can we postpone action on those items till the 11th? Yes, come on up.
Maybe you should introduce yourself. Where
Good
you-
evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Letty Brish. I'm one of your assistant city managers. So the Galveston County Election Services contract, if we do not provide a signed contract by August 10th, we will be required to give them a $500 fee for being late. And you won't make the decision on whether or not to move forward with the election until August 11th. So you would incur that particular cost. We will also begin working on certain translations already that that may or may not bring in some additional cost. And if we wait too long from the Harris County side, there might be some fees as it relates to a down payment. But if we do it by August 11th, we shouldn't have anything on the Harris County side.
But if we approve them tonight, are there fees that we're going to incur?
No. If you approve them this evening, we will be within our deadlines with Galveston County, and we won't incur the $500 fee.
But if we approve them tonight and they don't move forward with the bond election, is there a cost?
There is not a cost to,
Even though you have to tell them by August 10th, we won't make the decision.
the contract does not have a fee necessarily. It'll be too close for us to have started incurring fees with Galveston County. If there was a bigger time period and they started spending money with the city of Friendswood on the ticket, then we would incur costs that we would have to pay. But I think from today to August 11th, we should be fine.
Okay.
So
Yes, sir.
I'm of the same opinion as you, Murad. I'm in the business from a standpoint of understanding where costs are going right now, and everything's going up with the pressure from inflation. And so until there's a recession, we're going to continue to increase the cost. I don't think it's prudent for a city to contribute to that problem by selling bonds in an inflationary cycle. I think we should reevaluate this, look at it at a different date. Maybe it's 6 months from now at the city council election. But I also think there are a handful of items on here that, as much as y'all have tried to fill in the gaps, I don't want to call them half-baked, but there are still a lot of questions in my mind that we need to answer as to what we're spending money on, how we're spending it. I know the nature of, you and I have had this discussion before. I'm in the business of having an OPC to begin with and then, solidifying it before I spend real money with actual bids. And then we can decide whether or not we want to spend the money. So that's not the way these bonds work. That's not the way city financing works in general. Would I change it if I had a magic wand? Yes. So I don't see it prudent that we spend $150,000 on an election that is going to be leaving a sour taste, I think, in our citizens' mind at the same time where we're raising our tax rate 4.5 cents. Which isn't 4.5 cents, it's dollars. It's, $160 to the $400,000 house. Or actually, it's more than that at this point. Robert kind of said it, we got a spending problem. I don't think we should, even if it's voter approved, contribute to that. That's my 2 cents on the matter.
Well, I haven't come this far by disagreeing with the city manager on things because I learned a long time ago that gets me in trouble. So I am tending to agree with these fine gentlemen. I think maybe, is anyone up here really adamant that we have a bond election in November? Okay. I'm seeing a lot of, anybody? Nobody? Okay.
And this in no way is a reflection on the work that the bond committee did over the last 6 months.
You're here, and
they're shooting daggers in my back right now with their eyes, I promise you.
It's very hard to
sorry.
raise the tax rate.
Sorry,
4
Maddie.
cents
Good
and
job.
then ask
Yes.
for a bond.
Right. Well, I think we just put a pin in this and put it off until the future when maybe next May is the right time. So.
Okay.
Before we know.
Yes.
All right.
We have one
So,
more.
moving on. Okay. Becky Bennett, I see you coming up. Discuss amendments to the city's zoning ordinance to allow fences to be erected in front yards of residentially zoned property.
Yes, sir. Hello,
Aubrey,
Mayor and
you
Council.
you stepped aside.
She delegated.
Yeah, that's smart.
So, well, you get me, because the Planning and Zoning Commission's Ordinance Subcommittee has taken a look at some possible changes to our ordinance related to front yard fences. So this came about because our code enforcement officer observed a contractor installing a fence in a front yard. Standard size lots generally are not allowed to have fences past the front building line. So they stopped and talked to the contractor. The lot in question was half an acre, and it's about 109 feet wide. So our current ordinance does allow fences in front yards, but it allows them on lots that are on the farm to market roads, the real busy roads. Lots greater than 2 acres, because the more property you have, the less obvious, the less intrusive of fences in the front yard. And then we amended the ordinance in 2017 to allow certain types of fences on lots that are only 150 feet wide. And that came about because there was another homeowner that had put a fence in the front yard and then found out that they weren't supposed to, and we took a look at it back then. We also added an exception that if both neighbors have compliant fences, so if your 2 neighbors are 150 feet wide and then you're in the middle and you're only 100 feet, but they have fences, then you could still have a fence. That way you're not odd man out. We do prohibit chain link and barbed wire fences in the front yards. So the ordinance subcommittee met, and we kind of benchmark other cities. We did our neighboring cities, and then we did other cities that are close to Friendswood as far as like lot size and population. And we are kind of middle of the road. Some are more, some are less. So I'm going to skip ahead to this one. So these are the 4 options that we talked about. Because fences are allowed on certain roads, they said, well, maybe we just allow them on Greenbrier because the high school's over there and it's a little busy. The downside of that is if you let Greenbrier, well, then Falling Leaf's going to want it, and then Sunset's going to want it, and it kind of creates a domino effect. Like, where is that line? The other conversation was to change 2 acres to a half acre or some other acreage, whatever council sees fit. We could remove the regulation altogether and just, if you want a fence in your front yard, you can have a fence in your front yard. Some cities do have that. Or leave the ordinance as is. So after a lot of discussion, the subcommittee, their recommendation is to leave the ordinance as is. They think it is sufficient and it has served its purpose to date. They did say if they were to make a second recommendation, it would be to allow fences, but they were looking at 1 acre lots. So that wouldn't necessarily help the subject tract. So we are talking to y'all about which route you would like to go. If you want to make some changes, then we can work on drafting the language.
Well, I know Ty's sitting right there. Ty, I like our current ordinance. I like the way it is. I like the fact that we can drive around. We don't see fences in front yards. And I know yours isn't complete yet, but it's, to me, it's, and I feel for you, I know, hey, we made our kids stay in the backyard, because any street could be dangerous, and you don't want your young ones wandering out there. But my feeling on this right now is leave it as is.
I'd like to speak an opposing viewpoint. I would like to look at option 1, which it would add Greenbrier to the list, and I'm going to tell you why. There is no other 5 or 6A high school in the area that's in the middle of a residential neighborhood. This was built when the high school was built in the early 70s. There was no one around. It is all built up now, and the decision was made a long time ago to leave the high school where it is. But I think it requires some out-of-the-box thinking or some special considerations. When we look at that it's a neighborhood But we do have a lot of teenage drivers. We have a 2,000 student enrollment. We have teenage drivers. We have moved that high school. One building was added to the front, and then we've added more to the front, and it's closer and closer to Greenbrier. So I think Greenbrier is a different situation in that the large high school is right there. So I would think that you would add Greenbrier to the list of streets that would allow the fences in the front yards. And they don't have an HOA, but they're more like ranch-style homes out there anyway. So I think that would be a good thing and protect the kids.
Question, if I may.
Yes, sir.
I know in some situations with HOAs, they have restrictions, but if you get your neighbors to sign off and say, yeah, we like what they're doing and it's fine, a swing set, a play set, fort, whatever it is, standing up over the fence a little bit, was anything like that considered, or could it be considered in amending or adding to an ordinance that with sign-off, approval, whatever, of certain neighbors or within certain distance, with their approval, could there be an exception, I guess, or?
So I'm going to interject before Becky answers that. The federal law is pretty explicit regarding zoning laws, that you can't establish anything that's considered arbitrary or capricious. I know that's a term that Councilmember Graffon's used quite a bit. So if you have the situation where one neighbor gets along with, I'm going to use Thai as an example, they like Thai, so they're able to sign off on it, but if it were another family, they wouldn't sign off on it, then it makes the rule arbitrary.
And that makes sense. I didn't know, but I agree with Trish that Greenbrier is a very busy street and extremely hazardous for kids playing in the front yard. Kids play in the backyard, I guess that's an option, but I would be in favor of add Greenbrier to the list.
I've seen cars in those ditches, too.
Could you go back to what some of the other cities are doing? For me personally, this is a property rights issue, and more and more our residents feel like they no longer own their land. They rent it from the city, and they rent it from the county, and they have to get a permit or permission. That's what a permit is, a permission to put a fence up, a permission to put a pool in, a permission to put a roof on, a permission to do anything on their own land. And I have real problems with that aspect of cities ordinancing people on their private property. I see here that League City has 4 to 6 foot fence, transparency 70%. I don't see any minimum lot size on it. Missouri City's 0.8 acres, 125 feet, 150 feet. Some 90-foot lots, maybe. But again, for me, this man owns that land. The city of Friendswood doesn't. He pays taxes on that property to afford each and every one of our staff their salaries and that sort of thing. So for me, I think you should be able to build a fence because it's his property. And it's his property, and that's just the way I feel about it.
My argument to that is this ordinance was on the books when he bought that property.
Yeah.
So
And there's a lot of ordinance on the books and a lot of permissions that have to be made.
A lot of city councils have met over the years to establish these ordinances for different reasons. Anybody else? Michael, you got thoughts on this?
I'm falling in line with you, Mayor, in this. We don't often agree.
Yeah, we do. More than you think.
Probably, but it's same situation, right? Buyer goes and buys a piece of property, understands what the rules and regulations are for that property. I understand that wasn't necessarily the case possibly here, but regardless of what street my children are playing on, I'm not letting them out in the front yard, and the fence wouldn't curtail any of that. It certainly wouldn't curtail the car going and careening through the ditch. So I do think we do need to enforce our speeding ordinances on Greenbrier and make that much more effective, as was raised tonight. But I'm not in, this is almost spot zoning at this point. And, I think we either have zoning or we don't. Take your picks. If we have the zoning ordinances in place, enforce it. I know this is talking about removing it or changing it, so that's what we're here to vote for tonight.
And theoretically, there's not going to be a vote
We're not
tonight,
voting
but a
tonight.
nodding of heads. If there's 4 of y'all nodding in a particular direction, then we'll continue to have this discussion with the Planning and Zoning Commission.
I'm nodding in this direction.
I'm nodding in this direction.
By my count, we got 3 people nodding in the direction right now,
Which direction are you referring to, just including Greenbrier?
Yeah.
including Greenbrier. What we would do is send this back to Planning and Zoning, to the committee, to the commission to write an ordinance and for us to address and pass or
I'll
not.
nod yes to that.
You're what?
I'll nod yes to that.
Okay, so do you need more direction than that? I think we're hearing Greenbrier would that be a minimal? I guess you'd be okay with just 6?
Laissez-faire, baby.
Robert wants them all to be able to have.
Yeah, exactly. Robert, okay, Robert's
Hey,
bad.
there's already fences on Greenbrier. If you
There's
drove
fences on
on
Sunset.
Greenbrier right now, you would see fences, maybe they're side
They are-
fences,
that's a side
because
fence on Sunset.
but there are fences on Greenbrier right now. And there has been an instance where this has been changed in the past. And Greenbrier is fairly unique, I agree with Trish. But to exclude somebody after so many people already got fences on Greenbrier, and those fences are solid. Some of them are 6 feet high and completely solid. So I would definitely be in favor of being able to put a fence.
Take it back, get P and Z to send us an ordinance change,
Then we can vote.
and we can vote on it. Yeah, so we'll see.
Can I
See
just
if-
ask one question?
Yes, ma'am.
Are hedges okay? Like, for example, the fence, no fence, but the fence does not look very good right now. But, I mean, I wouldn't allow my young children to play out in the front yard, no matter where I lived. And I did live on a busy cross-section off of Sunset for 19 years. But right now, if I were one of your neighbors, I would not be happy with what you've put in so far. No, I know it's not finished, but are hedges something? Because that would deter the children from, if you did have them playing in your front yard. Are hedges allowed, or is that
So the front
also
building,
taboo?
the front building line applies to the fence because it's technically a structure. We do have some criteria for shrubs, like envision triangles and up closer to the road, but I would imagine they're allowed without knowing off the top of my head what that requirement was. I think they can only be so many feet tall.
So they're allowed, they just can't block visibility of oncoming traffic as you're pulling out of the driveway type thing.
Well, my other thought was that the hedge would kind of camo the fence. If the fence were approved, that would kind of camo the look and not be quite as offensive as just a fence jumping out there. Because I'm not sure there's anybody to your left or right that has a fence currently. Is that right? You're the only one for several homes in either direction?
So-
Yeah, in the front. Yeah, well, backyard fences are okay. And it wouldn't keep your kiddos in the front yard. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I really want to try to find a way to find the common ground here, but what's out there right now, and given that our ordinances don't correspond with that, it makes it hard for me to say, yeah, let's do this. But I do hear about Greenbrier, and Greenbrier was one of the places where you went to a lot of trouble, the city went to a lot of trouble to put up where kiddos could walk along Greenbrier. So, I mean, I know Greenbrier is a busy road. There's no doubt about that, no doubt about that. So I would be in favor of kicking this back to P&Z and see what they can come back to us with that might make everybody happy.
Do y'all have any thoughts on the material or transparency level of fencing? And by that, I mean wrought iron versus chicken wire versus horse rail.
Chicken wire.
Yeah, no chicken wire.
No chicken wire.
So-
No barbed wire.
Well, the fence that's up right now has wire mesh.
Yeah, I know.
And so that's
part
what,
of what I don't like about it.
I thought it was a temporary, I thought he said.
so just, which League City, theirs says no barbed wire, chicken wire, chain link, or lattice. And I think one of them said something about wire panels. There's a very specific name for it, but,
Yeah, there's a
I mean,
wire.
we can bring options.
There's an anti-climbing wire panel that get
A
spec.
lot of the fences that you see in front of homes usually are more see-through. They're, they're very wide, much like Robert's on Sunset, further down on Sunset. It would not keep children in the front yard. It might stop a car from coming into your front yard, but it wouldn't keep your children from getting out of your front yard. If you're using it for safety, I question that decision, I'll be honest with you. Okay, I get that.
And he doesn't have an HOA that's prohibiting it. And I don't know if the city wants to become the HOA for Greenbrier. I don't think they should, but I think we should be allowed to do it.
Okay. Moving on. Thank you, Becky. We appreciate it. Like we say sometimes, not this rock, bring us a different rock. So good luck. But you'll bring us something good, I know. All right, item 9, city manager's report.
Yes, sir. So as mentioned earlier tonight, we do have a gala coming up for the library on September 26th. If you haven't bought your tickets yet, please do so. I'm guilty of that, and we'll be purchasing them shortly. It's going to be a fun night. It's a fantastic opportunity to see the library up close and personal, as well as to invest in its future and some of the things that we cannot fund as part of the budget process. Also coming up shortly after the Library Gala is the National Night Out. This is a joint venture with all of our public safety groups, the EMS, fire department, the police department, as well as our communications team. And they will be going out to various HOAs and visiting with folks that are out and about in the community. If you would like a fire truck, police vehicle, or a council member to show up at your neighborhood during that evening, let us know. We'll coordinate accordingly. This is separate from our HOA meetings, which I've routinely volunteered to go to whenever somebody wants to yell at somebody. So it's a great time to get out to meet our public safety first responders, as well as get to know your neighbors. So I encourage folks to participate on October 6th. I would like to take an opportunity to recognize Detectives Kevin Crouch and Savannah Clower. They've recently were selected to attend the 2026 Law Enforcement Sexual Assault Training in South Padre. This is a competitive program that's led by nationally recognized experts. Not everybody gets to attend it. We're grateful that our esteemed detectives were able to attend and further be educated in identifying potential issues and how to help victims and investigate these type of assaults. Lastly, we have some guests in the audience tonight that are here to present an award to our court clerk, Brian Lea. Tonight we have with us Ms. Jennifer Perkins and Tammy Odom to present him with his Class C certification. I will say the letter I received in the mail said we had one of these Class 3 individuals. We have 3 of our 4, so no other city in the state can claim that, and I apologize if I stole y'all's thunder.
You did. Hi, I'm Jennifer Perkins with the City of Dayton. I'm the City Secretary and the Municipal Court Director, but I'm also the co-chair for the Texas Court Clerks Association Education Committee. Sorry, I did not memorize this, so I'll be reading it. The Court Clerk Certification Program, sponsored by the Texas State University San Marcos, Texas Municipal Courts Education Center, and the Texas Court Clerks Association. The program has 3 levels of excellence. Out of over 4,000 clerks in the state, only 160 have become Level 3 certified municipal clerks. As a testament to his dedication and professionalism, Brian Leha, did I say that right? Yes. Okay, has achieved that designation. Though Brian has only been with Friendswood for 2 years, he has many years of experience in the court profession, working with Houston and Pasadena. He came to Friendswood with his Level 2 certification. When given the opportunity, he immediately began working on his Level 3 process. Let me tell you about the requirements for the Level 3 certification. You must achieve your Level 1 and your Level 2 and remain in good standing. Each level requires 40 hours of education, a 4-hour exam, and then you must complete 12 hours of continuing education annually. Additionally, for Level 3, the candidate must attend a 24-hour assessment clinic, a 12-hour court administrator seminar. The candidate must then complete 40 hours of court observations in different size courts across the state. Accumulating in a journal of those observations must be submitted and approved by a state committee, and they are very rough. Well, they sent mine back like twice, I think. Brian's involvement in this rigorous course of study confirms his dedication to the judicial system and the city of Friendswood. Now, 75% of the Friendswood staff is made up of level 3 clerks, which is a feat which is unparalleled in the state. Only one other city has three other level 3 clerks, which is a much larger city than Friendswood. This is a testament to the dedication the city shows to education, personal development, and the support given to ensure departments can be the best that they can be. On behalf of the Texas Court Clerks Association, in conjunction with the Texas Municipal Courts Education Center and the State of Texas University San Marcos, I'm pleased to present Brian Leha with this Certified Municipal Court Certificate and Plaque. Congratulations.
Great job, Brian. Thank you so much. And not to be outdone, the last item I had on my city manager's report is recognizing our Deputy Director of Human Resources and Risk Management, Cheney Honeycutt. She was recently elected to serve as a trustee on the Texas Municipal Human Resources Association's Board of Directors. In addition to that, she also received her Society of Human Resource Management Senior Certified Professional Credentials, which is also very difficult to obtain. So, Cheney, great job and thank you. And that's the conclusion of my report.
All right, thanks, Murad. Moving on, item 10, City of Friendswood Employee Benefit Trust business items. So, ladies and gentlemen, put on your employee benefit trust hats here. As the Board of Trustees of the City of Friendswood Employee Benefit Trust will now consider items 10A and 10B together. 10A, consider approving the minutes of the Friendswood Employee Benefit Trust meeting held on August 4th, 2025. And 10B, consider authorizing the city manager to negotiate agreements for 1, employee medical, dental, and pharmacy insurance, 2, employee life and accidental death and dismemberment insurance, 3, employee vision insurance, 4, employee long-term disability insurance, and 5, ancillary products for employees. Rod, do you have any?
So, Mayor, as in years past, we worked with Higginbotham to go out and secure contracts for employee benefits. We were able to, they were very successful in bringing down that cost. Originally, it was going to be a 5 to 6% increase, and I think we settled around 2.4%. Shana's here this evening if you have any particular questions regarding that, the contract. For the benefit of the audience, we have an employee benefits trust as a tax-saving measure. The state allows us to forego sales tax expenditures associated with the procurement of these services by having a trust. It's still the city of Friendswood that's purchasing and procuring the benefit.
Okay, do I have a motion on this
So
item?
move.
Second.
I have a motion by trustee Ellisor and a second by trustee Branson. I'm just trying to get the word trustee out there. All in favor?
My word, Karen.
Passes. All right, going back to city council business items. Item 11, as the city council will now consider remaining items on the agenda. 11A, consider authorizing the monthly transfer of funds for fiscal year 2026-2027 to the City of Friendswood Employee Benefit Trust contingent upon sufficient budget appropriations.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion is second. All in favor? 12, HJC's Friendswood Parkway Corridor Study. Receive a presentation regarding the Houston-Galveston Area Council's Friendswood Parkway Corridor Study. Presented by, I was going to say, TJKM Representative Aldo Fritz.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Gil Arias, the Director of Engineering here at the city. Wanted to take a brief minute to introduce our presenter tonight, Aldo Fritz with TJKM. He is presenting on our next item tonight, the Friendswood Parkway Corridor Study. This is a project that was completed by the Harris Galveston Area Council's Unified Project Work Program, a $250,000 grant that was given to the city. So I'll be back here hanging out if there's any questions specific that I can help. With that, I'll let you go.
Thank you, appreciate that, Joe. Good evening, Mayor, City Council. I gotta say, it's a very exciting night, just a difficult act to follow. Good job to Murad. Exciting, it's traffic and budget. It's always a great night. So my name is Aldo Fritz with TJKM, I'm Director of Business Development and also the Assistant Project Manager for this project, for the HGAC's Friendswood Project Parkway Corridor Study. Also, Naeem Amin is also here present with us. And I'm going to go ahead and walk you through the project. We also have Chun Zhao, Project Manager on the Houston-Galveston Area Council side, and also Monique Johnson with her. So I'm going to try to make this brief. We have our brief agenda. We're going to walk you through our project team, going to explain the purpose, goal, vision, and approach for this project, walk you through the issues and needs assessment, the alternative analysis, the implementation funding, and going to open it up for questions. Project team, we have Hildardo Arias, Director of Engineering. We had also Heather Van Dyne, Assistant Director of Engineering. And consultant team, of course, we have myself and Nayan present, and Chun Zhao and Rodney Ziguao, who is not present, and of course, Monique Johnson. Okay, purpose, goal, and vision. So then the overall vision of the project. The vision for the Friendswood Parkway Corridor Study was to propose a safe multimodal corridor designed to improve mobility, enhance safety, and support the growth of people, goods, and services for those traveling within and throughout the city of Friendswood. The overall goals of the project, these goals helped frame the overall project itself. We wanted to focus on regional and local connectivity, viable east and west alternative routes, congestion relief along of FM 518 and FM 528, multimodal and evacuation capacity, and of course, enhanced multimodal accommodations throughout the corridor. And of course, so we did. The project itself, the study was initiated to address current and future transportation challenges in Friendswood while proactively planning for growth, safety, and multimodal connectivity. We had a 5-task approach. We focused on the literature review. We summarized relevant local, regional, and state plans and best practices. We focused on the next task was the issues and needs. So we assessed current and future transportation challenges and gaps. We also integrated public engagement, so we heard directly from the residents, agencies, and stakeholders throughout the project. We focused on, task 4 was, we focused on alternative analysis, evaluated alignments and cross-sections against project goals. And then the last task was the implementation funding. So we defined partners, phasing, and local, state, and federal funding opportunities. So then, brief overview. So the study area is between FM 2351 and FM 528. So the HAC and the City of Friendswood partnered to study the Friendswood Parkway from 2351 to FM 528. The ultimate plan was to extend the corridor into Brazoria County, connecting FM 2351 and eventually to the future Pearland Parkway. On the north side was FM 2351, and FM 528 was the southeast terminus, and then Parkland Parkway was the future regional connection via Brazoria County. And then you can see, of course, the blue section on the map. That was the overall study area. Why this corridor is needed? We focus on, again, the issues and needs assessment of the city. It is very auto-dependent, so 75% of commuters drive alone. There's a congestion on the FM 518. There's safety concerns. FM 518 is a high-injury corridor serving local and through traffic. And there's multimodal gaps, right? So there's 17 segments that show missing or incomplete sidewalks, bike facilities, and cutting off neighborhoods. We looked at the existing conditions of the area. So then there were three scenarios that we looked at for the city. So in focusing on 2023,
2045, and then 2045 with the parkway. Right, so in 2045 in the middle is imagining the city without the parkway, right? In 2023, there were 9 out of 15 study intersections already operated at unacceptable level of service, and there were delays in runs. System-wide level of service, just to walk you through, is A through F, right? So then A, the cars are free-flowing, and F, pretty much, it's a parking lot, right? You better just stay home that day. So in C and D is considered acceptable level of service. So in this is your level of service existing conditions, right? So then it says 2023, but it's based on the models that are used with the HVAC. So in AM conditions, you could see that there is free flowing, but then the PM conditions, you start to see a lot more I guess E and F throughout the region. And of course, when we're looking at the parkway, you're not going to just focus on the traffic just along the parkway itself or the proposed parkway. You have to really start to go out further, right? So, and that's what you see the purple the purple region. So. 2023, again, so 9 out of 15 study intersections already operate at an unacceptable LOS, a level of service. Then you start to look at these intersections, right? So then there's a PM peak hours. You start to see the different intersections throughout the map. The segments, now looking at 2045 without the Friendswood Parkway. You start to see how there are level of service of F start to pop up in both the AM and PM conditions. And then that's, of course, that's without the Friendswood Parkway. So a majority of the 20 study intersections are projected to operate at least a level of service of E or worse. Right? So again, you start to see your intersections. And then 2045 with the parkway. So you do see AM and PM, you do start to see also some slight changes. You do see also some level of service of F. So then it's not really just implementing a new parkway, but you also have to look at your mitigations. So then we looked at a whole new scenario, looking at the Friendswood Parkway. Again, and I'm sorry, and these are your intersections that you can see are start to fail in 2045, but then we start to look at mitigations. So, possible mitigations throughout the area are, adding turn lanes through right-to-turn lanes, optimizing signal timing. So, there are a variety of different mitigations that can be done throughout the area that could help improve your level of service. But even with, again, something to keep in mind though, even with the parkway, key intersections at FM 528 and FM 2351, they do need these mitigations to improve. This was also, we did integrate public participation. So there were 3 levels of participation. One was a steering committee. There were non-elected state and local governmental and non-governmental representatives from the city. Folks from HAC, of course, and TxDOT sharing comments. We also had a focus group. That was a more personal setting. That was offering a dedicated space for residents to voice other their concerns. We also had a community-wide meeting. That was an open process held at the Friendswood Library. Friendly reminder about the gala for the Friendswood Library. It is on the 26th, so just wanted to throw that out there. So it is a great venue. So awesome. So we did also have a website that was hosted by HAC. We did pass out, of course, the links, and there were 2,500 total site visits, and 1,900 unique visitors, and there were a variety of different types of comments shared. Alternative alignments. So then basically the 3 alignments that were looked at, and of course you could see on the map, some again sort of spreading out. So connecting County Road 129, connecting the future Friendswood Parkway, or along Dace Road. And so it all connects along Friendswood Parkway. And we also looked at the different cross sections. So what would these cross sections look like, right? So then this is an example on a 100-foot right-of-way. So you had a 28-foot median, and then you have
4 lanes, two on each side, and of course, 5-foot sidewalks, which I think, Councilwoman Branson would probably like. We looked at the different cross-sections, of course, different sizes, so 120 and 150. Again, the larger the right-of-way, the more amenities along the right-of-way. So integrating, of course, a 28-foot median, and then you start to add, turn lanes, so the wider the cross-section is, planting strips and things like that. So cross-section B, it was, again, 100-foot right-of-way, you had 28-foot median, 2 lanes on both sides. Then you had also a multi-use path, right? So a 10-foot multi-use path. So that's, again, for, pedestrians crossing or riding bikes and so forth. Cross-section B, again, somewhat similar. Cross-section C, 150, you have the 40-foot median. You have your 2 lanes on each side, and also a turn lane. And you have a planting strip, and then also multi-use trail integrated within the design. Cross-section C, again, 100-foot right-of-way, 28-foot median. And then there's just some certain fluctuations. There's 3-foot medians, 5-foot sidewalks in comparison with the other sections. Cross-section C and 120, 150. Again, 40-foot median, 28-foot median for the 120-foot right-of-way. And again, it's very similar, but there are just certain differences along the right-of-way. Mainly the size of the drive lanes or the multi-use paths. We start to focus on, we brought in an evaluation matrix, right? So then, how is it that these cross-sections are, how it was implemented to help decide which cross-sections would actually make sense and which one actually crosses all the check boxes that were created at the beginning of the study. So then multimodal congestion relief for cross-section A, B, and C, you start to see how cross-section A, did offer congestion relief, but did not offer multimodal transportation opportunities. Cross-section B did offer both options. Alternative one for the overall alignments, you have connectivity, alternative routes, also offered congestion relief and evacuation routes, and obviously an alternative one was selected for the conclusion of the study. So it was a mix of cross-section B and alignment 1, and they scored the highest, and they met the study's goals for connectivity, congestion relief, multimodal transportation, and overall evacuation capacity. This is putting it all together. Preferred alternatives. Alternate 1 was the cross-section the segment within the middle. The cross-section B was, offered 4 drive lanes, 2 on each side, a 28-foot median, and then a multi-use path. Alignment 1 connects to the future Pearland Parkway, estimated to start in 2031 per the Brazoria County Thoroughfare Plan, linking Pearland, Friendswood, and League City. It offers an evacuation route, and it's an alternative to FM 518 and of course I-45 scored 4+, meeting every criteria that was created for the study. Implementation funding. So there are different, funding opportunities that were brought up throughout the study that was outlined within the study itself. The funding sources are, of course, general obligation bonds, public-private partnerships, state and federal grants, and of course, using funds from from a TERS. And there's we do offer also a phasing opportunities for the different projects that range from 1 to 10 years, and it's highlighted within the study itself. Excuse me. Conclusion, the foundational investment in the regional mobility, and it's essential to the network. So without the parkway, intersections along FM 518, 528, and FM 2351 will face severe congestion and unacceptable LOS by 2045. It offers substantial relief. The parkway delivers major operational improvements and a more balanced, resilient transportation network. And 3, it does offer a clear phased path for alignment 1 and cross-section B with targeted intersection improvements, provides strategic and fundable ways forward.
The Parkway is not merely an enhancement, it's a foundational investment that strengthens connectivity, improves reliability, and positions Friendswood to meet current and future transportation demands with confidence. With that, I wanted to acknowledge the many members. This was not done in a vacuum. There were several folks that are present today and are not. So kudos to everybody who did attend these meetings and shared comments. So thank you very much to the focus groups, the steering committees, and of course the agency partners. And for more information, of course, you can contact the HACs. We have June and Rodney. Their contact information is there. And with that, any questions?
Thanks, Aldo. Just
I have several, and most of them, I think Murad can answer. And perhaps you, does adopting this plan actually do any more than agree to a concept of where the road might go from Wilderness Trail to FM 2351 and then on to the current termination of the existing Pearland Parkway? And in conjunction with that, it's also offering varieties of cross sections that could take place. None of this actually establishes what will take place. And the reason I'm asking that is because I know in past conversations we've had about this, the exact alignment of the parkway, and again, I know there's external and internal factors that will come into play, but it's actually going to be up to the developer, if there is a developer, on the section between Wilderness Trail and 2351.
So can we go back a few slides to show the aerial photograph alignment? So the short answer is this is a resolution. Well, after this discussion, you'll have another item to vote on, a resolution in support of this, the study's findings. To the aerial photograph, sorry.
Aerial, sorry.
There, stop right there. So the alignment where it intersects with 528 is set in stone, namely because that's where Friendswood Parkway currently dead ends, and we're currently working with Castle Biosciences in Galveston County on the extension over Chigger Creek to Wilderness Trails, where we purchased a piece of property on 23 Wilderness Trails back in 2022 or 2023, if I remember correctly. As it progresses towards Pearland from Wilderness Trails to 2351, that alignment's fairly well set. We have a settlement agreement in place with Mr. Johnson, who's in the audience this evening, that stipulate a certain distance from his property. And so that alignment has to snake the northern side of that page if north was on the top.
But suppose that settlement agreement could be altered
If it is altered, then we can look at an alternative. And this resolution, if council were to support it, won't set in stone that it can't move. But the bigger picture here is the benefits of the roadway and the necessity for the roadway.
I understand that. And also on the profiles, I think the recommendation was 100-foot profile.
Cross-section, yes, sir.
Cross-section, excuse me. That's also a potential variable that could be widened. I think the ordinance calls for dedication of 120 foot.
So typically for a major thoroughfare, it's 120 feet. Obviously, we're limited to some extent with the conditions that we have available to us. Since this is more residential in nature between Wilderness Trails and 2351, then a smaller right-of-way would be suitable. But if council were to do 120, we can do 120, we can even do 150. I have made mention previously with meeting with you that we don't have any current development agreements out there. So whatever is decided, we can negotiate with those property owners that segment would abut.
And certainly, however the funding comes about, we still have the option of deciding path and width, if that's a good way to put that.
Yes, sir.
So this is to be clear, this is a guideline more than anything being carved in stone.
It is a guideline, but it's based on some fundamental principles that are non-negotiables. And what I mean by that is, historically, when we look at doing a project, we don't like to condemn anybody's property, for instance. So the alignment is fairly well set as you get to Wilderness Trails. So it is a concept in nature, and it can be adjusted, but based upon the laws and settlement agreements that are in place right now, we're fairly well limited to what you see on the screen as far as that alignment. But if things were to change, then yes, it could be shifted.
Okay. All right. That's, never mind. Has to do with funding. Okay, I'm good now. Thank you.
And I think we would always try to get as much right away as we possibly can because, in these situations where we have a road like this, that you want as much buffer as you could possibly put in. Let's say there's a neighborhood nearby and you want more buffer for trees and that kind of thing, the better. So we would always try to negotiate as much right away as 150 feet would be, that'd be great.
So ideally, since this is a blank canvas, and I put it in quotation marks, we'd ask for a larger right-of-way so that we can anticipate what happens in the future. We just got done talking about Greenbrier and how close those homes are to a very busy street. So yes, ideally, we would like to see a greater buffer.
But you can write that in your development ordinances also, that there's a big buffer.
We could, and then keep in mind the complete balancing act as I stare at two folks right now about property rights versus overreaching. Yeah, there's a balancing act.
The irony of this is the developer wants more restrictions and.
Yeah.
But, so,
I think the developer would have some say in that.
generally.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, okay. Thank you. This has been great. I think we definitely got our money's worth on this study.
Well, it was free to Friendswood, but thank you to HGAC. Thank you, Monique.
Be free.
But
Can you give us big picture, because we didn't talk about the other day in our meeting, what the go forward is?
so the go forward, and I have said this like a broken record dating back till the 2024, I am hedging my bets. And what I mean by that is that there's a joint parallel pathway that's currently taking place both with HGAC and with the city of Friendswood. With HGAC, in addition to this study, we just in January approved an advanced funding agreement with the Texas Department of Transportation to do the engineering and environmental for the segment that you see on the screen before you. That's a $3.2 million investment that, due to transportation development credits and through the state's transportation improvement program, $0 are coming from the city of Friendswood, which is monumental. This is a long-term effort. We have opportunities today with Castle Bioscience, which we have a development agreement with, to build a segment of this roadway from 528 till their secondary entrance. And we have an agreement with Galveston County to build, as part of their 2025 bond program, picking up where Castle finished off and taking us to Wilderness Trails. I didn't know those two things were going to come to fruition when we had to give the go-ahead with HGAC in 2021. So yes, if you don't follow certain prescribed methodology that HGAC manages, we don't qualify for Federal Highway Administration dollars in the future and can't get this project funded. So until the segment of the roadway is built, I need this pathway to continue because it is a vital corridor within Friendswood.
You didn't even mention the fact that Brazoria County, City of Pearland are
Actively working on their section.
working on theirs to come and join in the middle, so it's.
In fact,
They've already approved the piece for Brazoria County. That'll be 2030, is that right, or 2031?
2031.
so that was the highest ranked project in the region for the 2031, 2033. And we had a meeting, Monique Hill and everybody else had a meeting as recently as today with Brazoria County to hammer that out.
Rod, you brought up going from 528 to Wilderness Trail. Do we know yet on the $6 million of county bond funds that we're going to get to use to build that bridge, is it going to be a 2 or a 4-lane bridge?
It's going to be a 2-lane bridge because of the $6 million doesn't go as far as you would like it to go these days. But yes, when we work with the adjoining property owners in the future, we'll look to expand the bridge. If I can build the 4 full lanes, I would love to, and that's the direction we gave Galveston County. But realistically, by the time those go out for bid, it's only going to build 2 lanes.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We
want
four.
4.
We'll eventually get 4.
We want everybody to drive by Robert's house so that they not offload those traffic.
All right. Item 12B, consider a resolution adopting the Houston Galveston Area Council's Friendswood Parkway Corridor Study.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion is second. Any other discussion? All in favor? Approved. Okay, item 13, City of Friendswood Wastewater Master Plan. Are you going to introduce Hill? These nice ladies been sitting here all night.
I'd like to introduce our next presenter. It'll be Bailey Keller with Priest and Nichols. Real quick, I just wanted to share with you at the back of the presentation from tonight. This is a very heavy in the acronyms presentation, so I asked them to give you a little cheat sheet. We got that in the back, and if you need any more explanation on that, I'm more than happy to sit down and explain that to you. So, Bailey?
Okay. Let's see. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Bailey Keller. I'm with Friendswood Nichols, and I appreciate the opportunity to get to talk to you about the wastewater master plan. So this is a plan we've been working very closely with city staff to develop over the last year and a half or so. And the purpose of this plan is really to help provide a data-driven roadmap that really helps prioritize your wastewater infrastructure needs so that you're investing money where you'll get the most value. So with me today, I have Ishita Rahman, Jared Barber, and Taylor Tamblin as part of my team as well, who are our wastewater experts and can help answer any questions. But during this presentation, we'll just provide an overview of the master plan, and my goal is to keep it short, and so we'll go ahead and get started. So these are some of the key components of the wastewater master plan. Really, all master plans start by evaluating what does the system look like today and where does this need to go moving forward. So we started by evaluating existing flows and then looking at how the development coming in is going to impact flows moving forward. We also performed lift station risk-based assessments, and so this effort included doing a condition assessment of all of the city's lift stations and also evaluating the criticality of those lift stations for how your system functions. So looking at both of those things, we were able to really prioritize which lift stations need rehab first. The third item was a really key component of the master plan, so the flow monitoring. This included installing sensors throughout the system that really gave us a lot of insight on how the system functions, what's happening in the system, especially during rainfall events, and how it responds. And so this gave us a lot of good insight into the health of the system, and is something that we'll talk a lot about today. But this piece in particular really allowed this plan to be data-driven and gave us a lot of good insights. This next item is also very important. So TCEQ has requirements for wastewater systems and how they're sized. And so we evaluated Friendswood system against those requirements. And then all of this kind of culminates into a CIP that includes a prioritized list of projects with drivers, descriptions, and costs. And ultimately, our goal with the CIP was to really address the root cause of the challenges we saw as opposed to treating the symptoms of those. So that's a theme we'll talk about. So before we get into more details on the master plan, just some background on your system. So Friendswood system has 42 lift stations and about 185 miles of gravity lines. And so those lift stations and gravity lines take flow from houses, businesses, and convey it to a treatment plant. And so Friendswood contracts with Gulf Coast Authority. At Gulf Coast Authority, their Blackhawk plant treats all of Friendswood flows. And so Friendswood reserves about 60% of that Blackhawk facility's capacity. One of the first items of the master plan was to project wastewater flows. So we worked very closely with the city's community development department to really look at the development that's coming in. We looked at the 5-year, 10-year, and build-out timeframes. So this development aligned very closely with all of the other recent studies the city has completed, like the Water System Improvement Study and the Water Wastewater Impact Fee Study as well. And these projections were taken and converted into flows so that we could make sure that this plan is accounting for the future and how flows might change in the future. Another key piece was field data collection. So the city invested in collecting a lot of really great information. Some of that information included the lift station and manhole survey. So we looked at nearly all the lift stations and almost 300 manholes. And this really gave us a good idea of what is the capacity of the system today. We also, like I mentioned, went to all of the lift stations and really looked at each individual lift station's needs. And then the flow monitoring piece included installing sensors throughout the system that really gave us an idea of what happens when it rains and also what happens on a normal dry day. And so those meters were in the ground for about a 90-day period, so we were able to capture 4 to 5 really good storm events. And this flow monitoring piece in particular is something, again, that was really key to the master plan. So kind of building on what we got out of that flow monitoring data. So inflow and infiltration is water that enters the collection system through defects in pipes, manholes, cleanout caps. These pictures here on the left are examples of how I&I can get into your system. And these are not examples from Friendswood, just industry examples, but really it's condition concerns lead to I&I. And I&I has a lot of potential consequences. So one of those is causing overflows or other TCEQ compliance concerns, such as backing up the system. I&I can also take up your infrastructure capacity. So that I&I is water that gets in during rainfall events and can really take up the capacity of your system today, which ultimately contributes to increased costs to convey those flows to the plant. So overall, I&I is something we want to limit. All systems struggle with I&I, but this is something we want to minimize as much as possible. So this is what I&I looks like in Friendswood system based on that flow monitoring data that was collected. So the map on the right shows red basins are high I&I basins, yellow is moderate, and blue is low. So overall, what we saw is that about 60% of the system is identified as high I&I. And that, bless you, compared to a normal dry day, during a storm event, you'll see flows up to 8 times higher than a normal dry weather day. So usually the peaking factor that's planned for is about 4. So this is double that number. So overall, what we saw is significant flows are getting into your system during rainfall events and are taking up your system capacity. There are really 2 main options for how you can address this. One is to upsize your infrastructure to handle this amount of flow. The other option is to really pinpoint the source of this I&I and perform rehabilitation so that you're preventing that water from getting in. So the latter is what we recommend, and a lot of our recommendations you'll see are around that theme. So when we talk about TCEQ requirements, this is what we're referring to. So TCEQ acknowledges that I&I is something that systems struggle with, and so these are the rules they have about how you must size your system for the peak flows during rainfall events. So you must size the system so that it can handle the peak flows coming to it and that it doesn't back up. So one of the tools we used to evaluate Friendswood system against these requirements was a wastewater model. And that model was built and calibrated with all of the data that was collected as part of the study, so we have confidence that it's matching the real-world conditions. So this model was used to develop improvements, recommendations, and also assess the system against these requirements. So some of the 2 main things that we saw as part of this evaluation, the first one is that city staff are already currently addressing most of the lift stations that were identified as critical rehab needs. And so that means y'all are already on a really good path for the lift stations that should continue forward. The second observation is that this aging, leaky infrastructure that has high I&I is contributing to potential regulatory compliance concerns. And so that high I&I is an indication that investment is really needed in rehabilitation throughout the wastewater system. So that kind of leads us into the CIP development process. So our goal with developing the CIP was to address that I&I and pinpoint the source of it instead of upsizing infrastructure to handle that excess flow. So our recommendation is to prioritize investment in rehabilitation over the next 5 years and then come back and evaluate what the system actually needs to be sized for once you complete that I&I reduction. So these costs here in the 10-year and build-out already assume some efficiencies are gained, you reduce some I&I, so those numbers would be a lot higher if you didn't achieve I&I reduction. So we'll focus on the 5-year projects in particular. There are really 3 main drivers for the 5-year CIP projects. One of them is to consolidate a high-risk lift station. So this is the last lift station that was identified as high risk that the city isn't already addressing. So instead of rehabbing it based on the survey data that was collected, we think this can be consolidated and can get rid of this lift station. The second driver is to extend service to people that currently are on septic systems and also serve anticipated future development. So projects 2 through 4 here, really that's what's driving those projects. And then the third driver of the 5-year CIP is to address I&I. And so one of the ways to do that is through a sanitary sewer evaluation study approach, or SSES, another acronym that Hill was mentioning. So an SSES approach really allows us to prioritize rehab dollars. So instead of going and just replacing everything in the system, the purpose of this is to really pinpoint what's contributing to I&I and just replace that or rehab that. And so in order to pinpoint those areas, we first start by doing flow monitoring, which was already completed as part of the study. So we know where high I&I is. The next step is to further isolate those areas, so do micrometering and really pinpoint where that I&I is coming from. From there, we can do field inspections in those isolated areas. So that would be manhole inspections, putting a camera through the line, doing smoke testing, and really identify the defects. And then that data can be used to design and rehab the improvements. So these steps 2 through 4 are what we recommend to do in all of the high I&I basins over the next 5 or so years. And once that's complete, then go back and reassess the system needs and evaluate the infrastructure sizing. So historically, the city has budgeted about $300,000 per year on collection system rehab. The general rule of thumb is about a 1% annual system replacement. So the $300,000 per year is about a 0.1% annual system replacement. So with the data we saw through the flow monitoring data and the I&I analysis that was performed, we recognize there's a need to perform rehab in the wastewater system and invest in rehab moving forward. And so this table here includes budget numbers for the SSES program, all the steps on the previous slide, and rehabbing the wastewater system in all of those high I&I areas. So the first project shown here is a pilot study. This would be to do the SSES program in a small subset of the basin so that you can really gauge the effectiveness of this program before moving and doing this everywhere. The second project is the citywide SSES and rehab program. And then the third one would be to go back, reassess the system, see what I&I reductions were achieved, and then right-size the infrastructure. So overall, this plan is meant to provide Friendswood with a clear understanding of where is the system at today and what needs to happen moving forward. And so based on the data that was collected, it was clear that the data is showing that there's a need to invest in rehabilitation in the system. And ultimately, our goal here was really to address the root cause of the issue and not treat the symptom by oversizing infrastructure to handle these excess flows coming to it, to really provide the city with the greatest benefit. So with that, thank you for your time, and I appreciate the opportunity to get to be here speaking with you about this.
Thanks, Bailey. So, Brad, first question is, in our water and sewer budget, we've been talking about, every so many years we evaluate water and sewer and we decide, okay, what do we need to set our water rates at to be able to keep up with the maintenance required? How are we doing with that?
So we're in year 4 of that 5-year plan. I think the last year of it's coming up in fiscal year 27, starting on January 1st. We have to plug these numbers into our next utility rate study. And I wish I can say there will be a date and time that they will never have to do another project. And as Robert's rubbing his temples, there will always be projects to be done. And I don't mean it to be comic relief. It's just unfortunate. The age of our system is the biggest driver in this. And as was noted during Ms. Keller's presentation, we're setting aside $300,000 a year for rehab. We should be setting aside about $1 million a year in rehab. But in order to do that, you have to raise the rates that much more. And it's an expensive endeavor.
So I'm not I'm kind of like really out of my field here, but does the study that we had done for drainage, it identified certain projects. Do they correlate at all with any of these problem areas?
So the only benefit to the study, the correlation would be that they're in older parts of the community. But the two are independent and exclusive of each other.
Okay. And then the other thing is that at the levels that are acceptable and unacceptable, is there a consideration that we're on the Gulf Coast and we get a tremendous amount of water through rain, a tremendous amount of rain? Is there a different standard for us than there is, say, in Conroe or in Huntsville or someplace else?
Yeah, good question. No, TCQ requirements are the same across the board.
So the difficulty is in newer neighborhoods where they have a lot of PVC piping and other plastic-type piping, this is not as big of a deal. The age of the community that was built in Friendswood, those pipes are cement-based or other material that's more susceptible to cracking over a long-term period of time. That's why we see our biggest I&I offenders in the older parts of the community that were built in the 60s and 70s. And because of that, we have, during major rain events, times where water can't be treated as it's going through the wastewater treatment plant. That's the biggest impact, is at the wastewater treatment plant.
Because of the amount of rain too.
Yes.
Are there
Now,
grants for any of that? You know, like living on the coast and having aging infrastructure and?
from time to time, there are. So, for instance, we got a grant and $10 million from the feds during COVID to do our water projects, and that's what we did. I don't know what the next emergency is going to be that the feds may put out a grant, but they may not. It would be nice if they did. In areas that we have opportunity for growth and development, for instance, at West Parkwood and Friendswood Parkway, this section of the lift station and collection line that was being recommended, we can do through our TERS that's out there, a partnership with the developer to, hey, if you do these improvements, you can get some sort of rebate or fund some of these projects through that TERS so that you don't have to overburden the utility rates.
Questions, comments? Ready to go home?
No, just a peaking factor of 8 is, wow.
Again, the states, in their infinite wisdom, through TCQ in this particular case, is what's driving that.
Well, I get it. I mean, most cities I deal with, it's a 4. So the fact that we're at 8, we've got to get on the rehab now.
Correct.
Well, thank you, Bailey. I know you got to witness, how the sausage is made here for about 4 hours or something. 3 hours, 3 hours.
Stimulating.
That's nothing. Okay, moving on. Item 14, City Council proposed ordinances and resolutions. 14A, consider on
13B.
second.
13.
Got to vote on the resolution, 13B.
Oh, adopt the master plan?
Tell me where I am.
Back to
13B.
I don't have 13B on my
Oh.
script. Y'all have a 13B?
And my apologies on that, Mayor. So 13B is a resolution in support of the master plan. that
Okay,
was just
consider a resolution adopting the City of Friendswood wastewater master plan. I get
Motion to
a
approve. Second.
motion and second, all in favor?
Give John the second.
I could just go back to the, just having this thing, because, all right. Somebody might owe me lunch. 14, City Council proposed ordinances and resolutions. 14A, consider on second and final reading an ordinance approving the 2026 annual update to the service and assessment plan and assessment role for the Friendswood City Center Public Improvement District, including the collection of annual installments.
So much like the certified rolls that you approved for our budget, this is with respect to the Public Improvement District at the Friendswood City Center. Each year, you have to evaluate the service assessment plan and set that assessment. This is the second reading. You approved it on first reading at July 6th.
Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve.
Can I ask a question either before or after the motion?
You can, either before or after. Our rules allow it.
Okay, great. Again, I'm a work in progress.
We're mid-motion right now, so go ahead.
Well, if I second it, then can I go forward?
Of course.
Okay. I second the motion. But before we vote, I have a question. about the possibility, and this has to do with the Friendswood City Center PID, asking for a financial reconciliation of that PID to be produced by Madison Development and/or one and the same Tanis Development. Just in general, this may not be the forum to do it, but I think there's a need and a desire for a lot of people to get the background on why we are where we are with that project today. And while it's not an audit, I'd like to ask for complete financial reconciliation to include payments to subs and vendors and such as that, if we can.
Who would do that, P3?
P3 did it.
So they do that in terms of reevaluation of the invoices relative to what was adopted in the original service and assessment plans, and they reconcile it based upon those dollar amounts. We can look and see if there's an opportunity to amend the agreement to ask for additional oversight, but we can only legally require what was legally approved by this body.
Okay, so we could, as the PID, TERS board, whatever we are, request that change in order to get that background information, that reconciliation. Again,
We can request it, but there's nothing that can, that forces the developer to participate.
but as a board, we could change the rules and then compel it.
No, there's nothing you can legally do to compel them unless they don't pay their assessment or they agree to change the agreements.
All right, thank you.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All in favor? 14B, consider an ordinance amending the city's general budget for fiscal year 2025, 2026 by approving Budget Amendment 10 and providing for supplemental appropriation and/or transfer of certain funds. Any questions? Got a motion?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions, comments? All in favor? And on the consent agenda, let me read this because since we've decided no bond election, I'm going to read it. Am I correct?
Correct.
Correct?
Yes.
I'm going to say, I need a motion approving consent agenda item 15A through T with the exception of items 15E and 15F, which.
Second.
A motion and a second.
It's D and E, isn't it?
It's Ian.
What is it?
E and F.
Your script
Did I
may
say
be wrong.
E and F.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
My script is not wrong. That's what I said. I said E and F.
No, we're not,
You're right.
we're not approving this.
We're not approving 15E. They're not a part of the consent agenda.
Oh, you removed,
Everything but the two
I
contracts.
read that motion as everything but E and F.
okay, so we're not gonna vote on those guys.
Yeah.
Did I get a second?
We have a second.
Oh, you're ready to moved, yeah, it was so
Ready
moved
for
down.
voting.
Okay.
As long as
Favor?
Raquel got it right. All right.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
You guys are going to have to get faster down there for the consent, because